At this point, you did this, bro. You're going behind my back, or you asked me. That's causing a problem. How can you call yourself a man at this point? How?
Well, what is a man?
That's another good question. Are we talking like physical characteristics, or are we talking just mentality wise?
There's no physical characteristics of a man.
I personally feel
Says
like
who?
both physical and mentality, whether it be very
I don't think there are physical characteristics of a man. Like what do you think makes a man? Like a penis and balls? Like is that
sometimes it's healthy. It's healthy things and unhealthy things. And I think we've even expressed them in this conversation. Like being a man consists of very healthy and unhealthy
more specific
aspects.
I don't know. What do you mean healthy, unhealthy?
What is, as much as we are men of this modern time, we are still tied to our human instincts.
What makes you a man, Doughboy?
I think, well, here's for perspective. We shouldn't have an issue when someone else dates our previous fling or thing or whatever. But for some reason, territorial aspects come into play. Our human aspects, our human instincts come into play and say that if I've been with this, then you cannot be with this. And I think
you think that's exclusive to men, or do you think that women would also exhibit a similar characteristic where they would be upset that a friend of theirs is with the man that they were with?
Absolutely.
So then that's not something that's unique to men. So then I wouldn't include that in terms of what makes a man.
Differences, though. Men that I've known men that have allowed their friends to talk to A, B, C, whoever they have talked to, and then not be an issue. I've known men of that caliber that have dated people and have had their friends, and it'd be okay, and it'd be an all right thing. Like it is up to the man to determine whether that's going to affect him or not.
Yo, Doughboy, what makes a man?
I don't know. I'm searching for.
Are you a man? Are you a man?
I try to emulate what I can from my perspective.
From your perspective, are you a man?
I'm still trying. I'm still trying to determine that. That's a serious issue for me and a conflict internally because I was not raised by my father. I have a lot of respect to my father. My father has a lot of influence on my life. But as far as teaching me man code has been learned externally by other people. I have learned what man code is from people who are not my father. And I'm not sure if what I was taught was the right thing.
I think the concept of man code in general is outdated because a lot of man code deals with how you're supposed to treat women, and it doesn't take their autonomy into consideration. It doesn't treat them as actual people. They're objects. They're just like, this is the woman, and she doesn't matter for the situation because here is what man code says. Here's how you should react. And the woman is just a thing. Like she's just a goal. She's a finish line, a prize for acting in the proper way according to man code.
In my opinion, as far as we've moved progressively as a civilization and in our minds, the same way I feel like we've moved progressively from racism in America is not practical, because I think we are still ways from it. Like I think there are a lot of woke people. I think there are a lot of people who understand what a healthy relationship is, but I think that more or less people are more subjugated to a traditional marriage situation where the husband is here and the woman works to serve the husband. And I as much as wrong as that may seem, I think that's what our foundation is built off of.
I don't
when you say not practical, you're saying it doesn't work. Is that what you're saying?
I
Yes or
think
no?
that a lot of modernism,
yes or no?
a lot of the modern things that we hold true to ourselves do not, they don't
Work.
play out the same way in traditional relationships where it is the man and the woman. Traditionally, men work, women take care of the children and everything else below that, but the man is always on top. I
So
think that dynamic is changing, but at the same time that it's changing, not enough people are changing with that.
are you saying
And a lot
no?
of people-
So in the time frame, in the time frame when shit like this was established, when the tradition was established, the reason why the men's job is looked at as harder and why he is on top in this relationship is because men ran society. I think if you were to take a time machine right now and you go back to like the Middle Ages or something, and you actually follow a man around from the Middle Ages for a day, and you follow the woman around from the Middle Ages for the day, I'll think that you would find that the woman is actually busting her ass so much harder than the man at that time. But because he went out and like he plowed some fields or something for 8 hours, like they were like he came back sweaty and dirty. They're like, you're working so much fucking harder. You know how hard it was to keep a kid or a baby alive in those times? That's why they had 20 kids, is because half of them were gonna die. Those babies were not gonna make it.
I think in history the issue is
Yesterday, he's dead. So and so ate a little bean. It turned out to be poisonous.
I guess we're gonna have to just
by a fucking animal. Like there's
Abraham the Third died of dysentery.
Sonic 4 got crushed by Tony's asshole. We don't know.
I have no idea.
Poor Knuckles, he fell out of the wagon while we were trying to ford that river.
Because
no one never ford the river. Never. It's a trap.
Yo.
What are you talking about? Because I'm completely lost.
Oh my god!
Like, we're sorry.
It's referencing Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Explain for the people. Okay.
Yeah,
basically, people back in the day had a lot of kids because a lot of kids weren't going to make it, and it's the only way to secure some number of offspring that will raise into adults.
Wait, hold on a second. I got the producer in my ear. She wants to know if Poocha wants an iced coffee.
What? Damn! I like that. Hold on.
Yeah. So, what makes a man? And we're not talking physical, right? You guys are not trying to say what makes a man physical. You're saying like
no, absolutely, that should be taken into account. So sorry to complicate this conversation even further because I personally feel like for the most part, I don't know what a man is. Like, it's hard to really I know what a man is supposed to be societally, but I see what women are. They exhibit those traits. So then it's like, okay, if it's not unique, then that's not what makes them them. Right? Like, you're looking for unique characteristics to label someone a thing, right? I do acknowledge that there is a such thing as maybe man is not the right word, but there are people in society that are bigger, faster, stronger than other people in society in general, right? Like ultimately, even though when Mateo was saying, hey, the reason they went out there, they worked hard, they did whatever, they got some food, they plowed some fields, they come back sweaty and dirty, and that looked like it was a harder job than raising 20 kids, preparing the food, gathering, food, like all that type of stuff. Like that looked harder. But ultimately the real reason is because they could have just physically killed them. Like they were stronger than them. Might was right in the previous time.
More words
like, whoever was stronger was correct.
And there wasn't a term of domestic violence.
Yeah, you just beat your wife or whoever the fuck you wanted.
Which is not a thing we're condoning. We're just having a discussion here.
Also, more words from the producer. Do you like caramel?
God damn, yes. That's so good. Yes.
Toss that pumpkin spice in there too.
Caramel.
Seasonal, baby. Now we're past pumpkin spice season.
Caramel.
Hey,
Caramel.
so in line with this conversation, is there a show that is aged more poorly than How I Met Your Mother? Because if you ever tried going back and watching that show, I don't know if you watched it in the first place, but that character Barney that everyone loved from that show is a sex criminal. Like
isn't he okay? Because I've seen a lot of clips of this guy on Reddit. Isn't he intentionally the way that he is? Like, wasn't he written to be that character though?
He was, and everyone loved him. But then, like, you look into the character, it's like, this man is straight up lying to get these women into bed. Like, he is not even lying. He's inventing false personas and, like, different names and, like, different, like, he's going, like, he is just deceiving these women into having sex with them.
What's the show with Danny DeVito?
That's always
Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, Always
That's
Sunny.
what I'm thinking about. Yo, that scene is fucking hilarious, and it's also so fucking dark and grim. Where the guy, there's a guy on that show where he's talking about it's the implication.
That's Dennis.
Yo, that guy's a piece of shit.
Dennis,
like, yeah, you corner a woman in a dark room, and then you ask her, "Do you want to make love to me?"
That is so fucking
It's like an innocuous question, but if she
no,
yes,
he's talking about you take him on a boat to the middle of the ocean.
Oh my!
And then things happen. He's like, because of the implication. And the Mac, who he's talking to, is like, the implication of what, dude? What are you gonna do to these women? What have you done to these women? He's like, no. I wouldn't do anything to them. They just know that if I wanted to, I could.
Oh my god!
I think that, just to go full circle, that's why society has ran the way that it has for so long, with women being lower on the totem pole.
Absolutely.
It's because men in general, and when I say men, I'm talking about people physiologically that happen to be born with penises and have testicles. They have higher testosterone, and for reasons in that nature, they tend to be taller, hairier, stronger, angrier, faster, all those things. It produces the situation where the implication is if you don't go along with what they want, they'll force you to go along.
No, not only that, but
it's like the villain from Beauty and the Beast. The Beast was the villain in that movie because he was forcing Belle. That woman had Stockholm syndrome. That is not a love story. That woman was kidnapped. Her father was threatened. That's why she ended up with the Beast. Like,
Gaston was just trying to do the right thing.
Gaston's the hero of that movie.
So you don't think you can fall in love like that?
No.
No, I don't think you can kidnap a woman and make her fall in love with you, Tony.
No, he didn't make her. He didn't make
that
her.
controversial stance and say no.
Wait. You can. That's why it's been documented. I feel like these stories are documented for a reason.
Are you talking about Stockholm syndrome? That's not real love, though.
Absolutely. I
Sorry,
think.
what are you saying? Absolutely, that it is real love.
Serious way.
Sorry, that it is real love.
People used to think that
Nigga don't answer questions.
No. But this is a history period.
Listen to his question.
History thing.
Sorry, not a history. You're saying that it's real. Those are your words. So I'm asking, do you think that a person who gets kidnapped can actually fall into real love with the
yes or no?
captor?
Yes, and I think it's happened in the past. I think that it has shown in past that captives have for some mental issue reason have sympathy towards their captors.
So you're saying because of a mental issue? I think you're knocking right on the door.
We're gonna need a disclaimer down here at the bottom for the editor. We're gonna need it right here.
I just want to speak. I'm not saying what I'm saying is right, but I think in old days, I think in past tense, I think that this was a way to coerce the woman you wanted.
So, Doughboy, let me ask you this.
The question. I don't disagree that manhandling a person is a way to coerce or force them into a situation.
Especially back in the day.
Right. That is a way. I'm asking, is it valid? Like,
not today. Not today, but in a possibility.
We're talking ethically. Like, do you, like, ethically and mentally, do you think that was actually real love that they experienced there, or was it some form of mental illness? Because the
A mental
documented
fuckery.
cases are that it's some kind of mental fuckery, like it's manipulation.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely what?
And I don't think that you're wrong in that sense, but I think
Absolutely what?
in these times, I think in the times that these things were written and the times that it's we're talking about centuries
Doughboy,
ago.
absolutely
I think
what?
Pucho needs you to say the words.
I need to hear them. You're saying absolutely what? I don't know what you're saying absolutely to.
That
I
it's
think
fine?
that
Is it real love? Yes
think
or
that
no?
in-
It's not.
in a perspective from hundreds of years ago, I think that this was a perspective that people had on
Right.
love.
No, you're
Is
not
it
answering.
right or is it wrong?
No, but that's from the beginning. I've never said that it was right.
Doughboy,
But when you're looking back at texts from the hundreds of years ago, whether it be the Bible, whether it be folk tales, whether it be any of these stories that we tried to create, I think it has a major play
Doughboy,
on the time period that they were created.
Doughboy, whether how far in the past it goes or today, is it morally good, right? Yes or no?
I think back in the day,
No,
these were stories that women would look at and be like, "Oh my God, maybe I wasn't right about that person who tried to keep me in complete."
That's not-
I think personally, I think these stories were used to confuse or direct a direction of love.
So
And I
let me
think-
ask a more like a more recent example of this, right? Because you're saying hundreds of years ago, right? I don't think that's accurate. Think of R. Kelly.
I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think that that's wrong. I'm talking about when the subject matter was written, when the
wait. What don't you think is wrong? Sorry, you keep saying it. Say specifically, because I'm having a hard time.
when Beauty and the Beast was first created, that story, that image of love, that image of how people fell in love, I think that was more or less a story of that period and or time when women would be, oh, you're my prince, you're my princess, I'm gonna marry you to whoever the fuck I want, regardless. And I think what they were trying to say was, even if you're married to somebody who you don't want to be with, you also can find some sort of love in that situation. That bitch was Stockholm syndrome, obviously. She was experiencing Stockholm syndrome, but I think Stockholm syndrome in that case and time was more normal than what we thought.
Well, normal is like a loaded term. It feels like normal is correct.
In that time, 100 years ago, when these stories were created, because these stories, if I'm not correct, were from the 1930s.
So, like I get what you're saying is that in a different day, some random guy born in that time, he might think that that's okay. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what does David with the Yankee cap think right now?
That's
Like
wrong, obviously.
Okay, sorry. Okay, and then you keep saying hundreds of years ago. It feels like you totally ignored my more recent question, which is R. Kelly, right? R. Kelly's a person who, as far as I'm aware, he didn't keep people in captivity by force, like in the beginning. That's something that they got abused into as time went on.
I think he did confiscate their IDs and like passports or whatever they had or something.
In that
I don't think it starts that way. In that being like the types of relationships that he was doing, it seemed like they started off all nice, and then he would like slowly try to drop these women's self-worth down to the point where they could be locked in a room for months at a time.
absolutely.
This is that.
What? Sorry.
No. Absolutely. You're right in what he was doing.
It's similar to what the Beast did in Beauty and the Beast, right?
In the time frame that he did it, he was dating a 14, 15-year-old.
I just want to know. Forget the minor stuff.
This nigga avoids all questions.
Wrong thing. It wasn't. Nobody got outraged when they found out that Aaliyah, a 14, 15-year-old, was dating a 23-year-old R. Kelly. It wasn't an issue back in the 90s.
It was an issue.
Because
It was.
It was an
It
issue.
was, and also people just
it
didn't really
wasn't-
know.
it wasn't as big as it would be if people found out now, if that was a now thing.
Yeah, because I think the internet proliferates information.
And-
Sorry, but I'm not
and,
trying to be. I'm not trying to be.
and we progress, because here is the thing that fucks with people of our age. Think about the 90s was 30 years ago.
A long time ago. You're talking about when South Park.
You remember back in high school where you had like some kids that were weirdly obsessed with the 60s? Now it would be the 90s. If we were in high school right now, it would be people weirdly obsessed with the 90s.
I wasn't in high school in the 90s, but
The whole question, Doughboy, is like, do you think it was okay? You said no.
but he didn't say no.
Yeah, no, he did. He said
He said absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Oh,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Well,
not.
no, because I was saying specifically when I brought up R. Kelly, you had to bring up. Well, sorry, not that you had to bring up, but you brought up additional things that would make it wrong, like he was doing this to minors and stuff like that. I'm saying removing those factors, the way that he was treating women to, and I'm even loading this question in a sense, right? I'm saying specifically the actions that he took against women and the experiences that they came out with, they described them as a Stockholm syndrome, pretty much. I'm asking if taking the minors situation outside, like all the young girls, get them out of the situation because there's reasons to be against adults being with minors. I'm saying specifically just those actions being done against someone who's well within their mind. Is that right or wrong? Is
It's
my
wrong.
question.
It's
Okay.
wrong.
Sorry.
And
Okay.
here-
Because that's not the way that you're answering all of these questions. None of that has been clear.
Yeah, it sounds like you're agreeing with all of that shit.
So
Woo!
back to bring it all the way back. Tony, what makes a man to you?
Yeah,
physically
shit.
or
I think physically is such a bad route to go down in this conversation.
because I'm gonna
Go
tell
ahead,
you
Tony.
physically,
I'm actually curious. Physically, what makes a man?
my dick and my balls.
So a man. So what happens what about the people that are born with no genitalia? Like
What
they don't
about
have a
what
penis
and what
or a
what
vagina?
about trans men? Like,
That's different.
Hold on, wait. That's even more complicated.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. I just want to go simple. What about
Natural-
the people?
All right, so this is gonna sound
Natural.
probably ignorant, right?
I'm saying, sorry.
How it
Let's forget
was-
trans people for a second. Just for a second. Don't even think about trans people. This is a very complicated topic that, in my opinion, no offense to anybody, I feel like unless people do reading and expose themselves to different beliefs and ideologies, they're not equipped to have these conversations, in my opinion. I'm just saying, what about a person that exhibits all of the characteristics of what you would view as a person born with a penis and balls, but they weren't actually born with a penis and balls? They're born with like no functional parts.
That's different. I don't know enough about that.
What does that mean? That's different.
Because I don't know enough about that.
Sorry, I'm asking. What do you mean that's different?
For me, that would be different to say if that person wasn't born with any genitalia. Like, I wouldn't know.
Sorry, what is different? Are they a man or are they not a man? Is the question. You're saying the answer is that's different.
I don't know
Then
that.
what?
If they were born with no dick, no vagina, I would not be able to answer that because I have no information on that. I don't know enough to make a comment on that.
Okay, so you're saying a penis in and of itself is what makes you a man?
How I was raised and grown up, if you were born with a penis, and to this day, doctors.
I just want to know what you think, not how you're
I'm
raised.
getting there. To this day, they still would tell you, "Oh, you want to know if it's a boy or girl when you go get your ultrasound." And how do they tell? Penis or vagina.
so that is becoming an outdated thing too.
So
Just
that is becoming an
FYI.
outdated. No, that is. So
You
It,
can't.
it is becoming an outdated thing. I mean, like the whole Bucho's touched on this before. Raising your kid where they make their own gender decisions is definitely a thing. I think at some point, like, you have to make some kind of decision, and you have to be willing to change your mind and be open to future circumstances changing. Like, obviously, Bucho's daughter has a feminine name.
You can't say that. Though.
I would well no, but
No. You can't say that because if we're going off this little road, talking about the kids got to make the thing. Pucho's daughter is not a daughter. Pucho's child.
Nope.
You got to say child.
No,
at this
you're
point,
missing
right?
the
If that's
point.
how y'all want to play the game.
No, you're getting distracted by the point before I get there. Like you're assuming what the point is going to be. I would assume, knowing the way that Pucho is as a person. Notice I didn't say as a man, just as a person.
Yeah, I'm
knowing the way
following.
Pucho is. If his daughter were to tell him tomorrow, "Hey, I don't think I'm a girl," I would assume Pucho would be 100% supportive of that. He'd also be very surprised that his daughter's talking to him in complete sentences about issues like gender role and
A year
like.
and a half.
But
yeah,
I would expect that, and that's what you have to do. You like the entire point of these gender conversations is just to be open-minded and willing to have the conversation and not lock yourself into a definition like a man has a penis and balls and boom, done. That boom, you're a man. Like let me knight you with a cock-shaped sword or something.
So what? So then it goes to the what do you identify then? That what you're saying? Nowadays it's not. So if you go to the hospital or go to the doctor and they tell you, hey, how would you go about that, right? My wife's pregnant. She go find out what the sex is of the baby. Now it's not about the sex. Now it's about like, what do you want to identify your child as? Like, how do we go about that?
I think that there is absolutely such a thing in 90+% of people. There is such a thing as your biological sex. Like what you're born as is absolutely 100% a thing, and it can be a medically important thing. Because there are, I mean, you're not going to give a hysterectomy to someone that was born with male genitalia.
So that's
like that's not a medical consideration.
So that's my point. So
even
then,
that statement is very loaded because he's saying male genitalia, but that's how the people that have done the work and categorized that work, that's how they've categorized it. That doesn't mean that is what it is.
So let me ask you.
That's also a very complicated thing, is that we've decided to pluck certain characteristics and said that characteristic is what categorizes you with this side of things, and this is what categorizes you in this other side of things. And I feel like the ultimate point of this is when I asked you a very simple question, from my opinion, a very simple question of what happens if someone's born with no genitalia, you don't even know how to categorize that person anymore. I think that illustrates why we shouldn't have strong opinions about these things, that we should be a little bit more open to the fact that these things aren't clear cut, because there are people that are born with no genitalia. Some people like to go to the chromosome levels. There's men that are born with female chromosomes, which are XX, I believe. There's XY, there's XXY, there's XYY, there's XXXY. Like there's so many different ways that chromosomes align themselves, and those people identify as something, and doctors categorize them as something regardless of their chromosomes. So then it's not just the chromosomes that do it. There's just a lot of factors at play that comes into this. So, I mean, it even gets even crazier where I feel like there's been more than one, but there's one that I recall, a case of a botched circumcision where someone went to circumcise a kid who was born with a penis. They circumcised that kid, and they accidentally cut his penis off in the middle of the circumcision. And then they had a decision to make. Are you going to live the rest of your life without a penis? Or we could just convert this to a vagina, and then you'll just live your life as a female.
But okay, so that's my problem there, right?
Well, what do you mean? What's your problem?
Medically, right?
Medically,
you botched a penis, and now you're telling the parents to decide a boy without a penis or a girl, or make them into a girl, right? Medically, right?
What does medically mean?
Medically, you go to the doctors, and if that person was a boy, right? And
sorry, medically a boy? What does that mean? Is what my question.
You say the doctor botched the child's circumcision, right? The boy.
You're saying medically there's something. I'm asking what does medically
trying to get
mean?
there.
What is
you're just not defining a term. I don't know.
Your internal organs, right?
Okay, so someone like a female born with ovaries.
So biologically, or
the identification, right? A girl is, as of right now, a female is born they have a uterus, they can
And ovaries,
and
right,
ovaries,
right.
they can birth child. Men can't do that. So if
Don't
you
go
take
down that one, but continue.
the
Don't
what?
worry. Just go ahead.
So if you continue down this path, right? Let's say I say no, I identify as a female now. I am not a man. I'm a woman. And then I go to the doctor and they tell me, well, okay, yeah, you're female. We identify you as a female, but you have a testicular cancer. I don't have testicular cancer because I'm a female.
No one is actually doing this conversation with the doctor that you're having, because they are fully aware that they still have, if that's the situation, they're fully aware that they still have their testicles, but the testicles are not what define them as a male or a female. They understand. No one thinks that there's a magic wand like me right now. Let's say I was like, I identify as female now to y'all. Do y'all think there's a fucking magic wand that
No,
gets
I'm not
waved
saying
and
that.
boom,
I'm not saying
suddenly
that.
I've got no
I'm
testicles.
saying that.
So I'm gonna go into the doctor tomorrow and I'm gonna be like, hey, I think I think that it's my time of the month. I've been getting these terrible headaches. No, because that's not the way it works in anyone else's mind.
So when you guys want to identify kids or unborn kids, right? Unborn children, and you're saying that, it's kind of wrong to just say this what makes a man, this what makes a female, but your natural body organs is how they identify you as a male or a female. Why do you take that away now?
I think that is the start of the conversation right there. I think you have to be open to it. If your child decides at some point in the path of your development that they want to go a different route or no route, let's say they want to be genderless, let's say they want to be non-binary, or let's say sometimes they feel feminine and sometimes they feel masculine. I think gender is a conversation.
No, I'm not disagreeing. If your child feels that they want to change,
I think your question is flawed.
Yes.
Because it's complicated, right? Like there is, and some people would say this is made up as of the last decade, right? But there is gender and there's sex. And for many, many years, when I say many years, I'm talking about thousands of years, we have viewed this, right? Like, think about when you say, talk to me like a man. What does that mean? That's what I'm trying to understand. That has nothing to do with whether you were born with a cock or not.
100%.
Yeah.
You're saying, talk to me in a manner in which men talk. What does men mean in that sentence?
Yeah, what does a man talk like?
Right. So that's one aspect of that. That's gender. That has nothing to do with what you were born with.
Yeah, we got hung up on
we're agreeing that
biological
gender.
sex.
Right. We got hung up on biology, which is more complicated, I think, than gender. Far more complicated. Because it's only of like the last 10 years or so that we even realize that the way that we categorize biology is also just not accurate.
Why is that?
If you want, oh my God, there's a podcast, Radiolab, literally one of the biggest podcasts in the entire world. They have a series called Gonads. When you say the word gonads, you think of it as men. Gonads are balls, right? That's what you think of?
Not really.
Well, that's what everybody on planet Earth thinks of, but that's not accurate.
Mhm.
Women have gonads.
I looked up that word because of that song "Gonads and Strife." If you remember that from the early days of the internet,
I do not remember.
It was a squirrel singing. It's terrible. It's real bad. I'll tweet it out whenever I put this video link up. I'll tweet out that video with it.
But long story short, women have gonads. In English, when people say gonads, we're talking about like when someone says, "Where are your gonads?" They're asking, "Where are your cojones?" What's a fucking cojone? That's a ball. Your balls.
Yeah.
Where are your loins? Where's your guts? That's what they're asking you. Act like a man. And it's just not accurate because women have gonads. And then this series on Radiolab, they go into why, even biologically, trying to separate a woman from a man is a very complicated thing. It's just not clear cut. Because initially, we would say it's just you have a penis, you got a vagina. Then people found these chromosomes and they were like, oh, There's XX and there's XY, and that's what separates you. And then you find that there's people there's a wide spectrum of chromosomes, that there's people that have XX that are born with a penis. And you go, how the fuck is that possible?
And to toss this, and to toss this in Apucho's point here as well. To toss this in Apucho's point here as well. He's talking mostly specifically for Western society, because I know that there were lots of like Native American and like First Nation tribes that had multiple genders. Like the idea that there were two genders was a crazy, crazy thing to them, because there were people that were in between. I forget, there's a term for them. I forget what the term was in a lot of these tribes, but there was a term for people that were in between genders. And this is a common thing that you see going back, like I think in Greece, that there was a thing, like it's everywhere.
Japanese culture, geishas have been men.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't heard of any of this, so that I find that interesting.
There's so many societies that they recognize that there were more than two genders, like because there's infinite genders.
So could you say that having
man, I've naively just thought there's a penis in their vagina, so we've just viewed two things.
So could you say
I've got a girl that I'm fantastic friends with, and she feels like she has like 3 different genders. Maybe 4, because sometimes she's neutral, and sometimes she's got a persona where it's like her take charge and be super butch like persona, and then like she's I don't know, she feels like she has several personas and genders inside of her, depending on the energy she needs to generate at that particular moment.
So could you say that that's a deformity in the chemical imbalance in humans when they're born, having XX or YYs? Like, could you say that's some type of and mind you, I'm not trying to disrespect. I'm literally asking a question.
It's a valid question.
Like, is that a deformity based on what we ingest or eat or chemicals that we take in throughout the year that causes this shit now? Because I guess, or maybe back in the days we didn't have the studies or the technology to really break down chromosomes and all this. Like,
think about it. There's been Joan of Arcs. There's been many women in the past that have taken up men's roles and have like defined them. And it's a woman that does this. That is in what's the woman, the one in World War II, the something of Arc or something like that.
Oh no, you're talking some middle age shit. Now Joan of Arc, that's the Crusades.
Okay.
But no, you're right. That's a woman leading people on battlefields, and she's putting on armor and killing dudes with a sword. Like, and she was a woman, but she was filling the role of a man. And I'm for the audio people, I'm making big fucking quotes here. Because what is a man and what is a woman is a complicated thing. It's a shame that Tony got up to walk away, because we're kind of in the midst of not changing anybody's mind, but just illustrating how complicated it is to define these things. Like, a lot of people like to go down to the testosterone level, even right?
Which is a crazy route to go. It's such a crazy route to go.
What was it? There's a runner. I don't know.
The woman, right? And they said that her testosterone levels were too high for her to compete against female. Right?
She's from India.
I don't remember the specifics, but I know that
fucking smashing records left and right.
But I know they
with men.
But they got into her they got into her testosterone levels, and they were like, no, obviously you were born a hermaphrodite or something. You got some funky biology where you can't compete with other women, and
that's fucked up.
And just for the record, as far as I'm aware, that's a person that was born with a vagina and breasts, which, for as far as Tony cares, that makes them a woman. And she has the right chromosomes, and I say right as a loaded term to say the ones that align with what makes someone a woman, which is XY or XX, I'm sorry. And she also identifies as a woman. And it's a shame, and it's actually kind of interesting, because maybe it was also Radiolab that I was listening to, because she came up in this Gonad series that I brought up. Basically her T levels were so high that they just said you have to be a man. There's no way that you're a woman. And they just banned her from international competition. Like, and she's smashing records left and right. And that just goes to show you that even in sports, which people love to bring up, sports is the ultimate trans argument. And I'll say
it's the dividing line. It's
yeah, for a lot of people. That's the thing. I'll fist fight motherfuckers if they want to come and check me. No lie.
For what? For the sports of dividing
people
the
with
line?
stupid opinions, I'll fight you. That want to be like, oh, I'm cool with trans people, but sports, that's where I don't want to see no trans people no more.
The line is drawn.
Right.
Would you agree though that the WNBA can't compete in the NBA because of the shape of the body and how big and how strong that is?
Yes,
and do you agree?
That's not controversial. Yes.
Let some trans people go into that equation, and I guarantee you will start to see a difference.
Sorry. So yes, to your question, Tony,
okay.
That men in general, what we call men, outperform women when it comes to.
So you would agree to keep them two separate?
No.
That's funny because you would agree that you agreeing that the NBA and the WNBA is different because of the structural body of the man and the woman, but you don't agree that you should keep them separate in sports because of the disadvantage of the sex.
I'm saying that in general, we're making generalizations here, right? In general, a person who plays in the NBA is going to be better than a person who plays in the WNBA. But the best player in the WNBA is probably better than a lot of people in the NBA.
100%.
They're not going to, I don't think that the best player in the WNBA, I'm not going to fool myself. I don't think the best player in the WNBA is going to be an all-star in the NBA. Like, there might be an anomaly here and there. Physiologically, it's a tough situation, right? But the fact of the matter is sports are not fair. We have this view that sports are fair, but I'm 5'8". I'm a midget by many people's standards, and maybe that's not a nice word. I apologize. I grew up in a different place. We use a lot of different words. It may not be cool. I'm sorry, but I'm a short guy. Is it fair that LeBron James is 6'9" and I'm 5'8"? I'm a man. Is that fair? Yes or no, Tony? I just want to know, is that fair? No matter how much I practice basketball, will I be better than LeBron James? Could you ever imagine someone 5'8" being better than LeBron fucking James?
Maybe AI.
You're high off your ass.
But what are you saying better?
No,
like, what are you saying better? What are you saying better?
So,
like 1v1 battles? Like, what are you saying better? Like,
who is a better basketball player than
overall?
LeBron James? So
you're saying height makes you a better player in basketball?
No, I never said that. But it's a distinguishing factor that when you make things too different, you're not going to compete.
Shaq couldn't shoot for shit. And he is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Like,
he's one of the greatest center of all time.
Because he is
one of the greatest center of all time. One of the greatest big men of all time.
Basketball players of all time.
But he was
because the man is roughly the same size as Joey's old 6th floor walk-up apartment in New York. They're just about the same height.
But I'm saying, like, what he was saying, he's like, I am 5'8". LeBron James is 6'9". Do you think that is fair? Or he's a better player? No, there's people in the NBA who are not 6'9", who are really fucking great at basketball, who is really fucking good, who can compete. The height, if you're using height as
6'6". I'm saying me at 5'8", will I, no matter how much practice I ever do, am I going to be better than LeBron James?
But better at what though? Like, what are we saying better?
Basketball.
In general.
Will I be a better player?
I could see. Yeah, I could.
You're high.
Yeah,
you're wrong. Name a 5'8" player. Name him.
Nate Robinson was
better than LeBron James.
I didn't say better. I'm saying you said name.
That's the question.
Oh, well, no.
Who is that guy for the rap?
I retract.
No.
I'm
I'm saying that physiologically, LeBron James had parents. I unfortunately have 2 Caribbean parents. We're short fucking people.
and you're not
We are
saying
short
you're
fucking
not
people.
basing it
LeBron
off.
James got the fucking genes. He's 6'8", 6'9". He's over here towering and dunking over people.
So Yao Ming was
that's
taller than him.
unfair.
Is Yao Ming better than him?
Huh?
Yao Ming
I'm
is
not
taller than
saying
him.
that height makes you
Oh,
better.
okay.
I'm saying that height is a distinguishing factor.
Yeah. He's not saying that the taller you are, the better you are automatically. But being tall helps more than being short when it comes to a game where you have to put a ball
depends on the
through a
style.
hoop that's 10 feet up in the air.
It also depends on the style,
If
Mateo.
LeBron James
No,
stands flat and puts his hands up, he could touch the rim.
it depends.
If
It
LeBron
depends.
James stands flat and puts his hands up, his hand is higher than I can jump to
Yeah,
reach.
that's cool. But
I'd be lucky to
that's-
high five the man by jumping as hard as I could.
no,
Yes.
in basketball, it's different. It is different. Yes, 6'9" is a fucking great advantage in basketball. Yes, but
Why is it a great advantage?
because you're fucking tall, you can defend people easier. I get
Wait, so
that.
Yao Ming better than someone who's 6'9"?
No, he's not.
Okay, so,
that's my
so we
point.
agree.
I'm saying
'Cause it
that
sounded like you were kind of
Kyrie
peddling his
Irving.
arguments
No,
earlier, but you agree with me.
I'm saying Kyrie Irving can kill
so-
LeBron James in certain aspects in basketball.
He's not
Okay,
a better.
okay. So to bring it back, though,
Kyrie Irving's also like 6'4". He's not short. He looks short, but he ain't fucking short.
okay, to bring it back though, because we're going down a whole different other tangent. This argument in general is a bad faith argument, though, because people are not switching genders to get an advantage in sports. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no, absolutely,
but that shit does not happen. So getting all hung up over, well, if we let trans people get into sports, they're gonna start burp. Like the male athletes are gonna come into the women's track team and just dominate and set all their records. The instances of that happening are pretty damn low. The instances are pretty damn low. No one is changing genders to get an advantage in sports. And if you are, you're probably a shitty human being.
No,
But
for sure.
is that allowed?
But it's undoubtedly happening, right? Like, sorry, we've been through this thing. I have woke views, and I have what some people would classify as conservative views. I don't agree with that, but I know that that's how people would categorize me. I'm just saying, let's get down to facts, right? Let's look at the rawest information we got. When there's studies that show that a person who transitioned from male to female, they perform better at bodybuilding than people that are cis females or
For a little bit, because eventually that estrogen drops their testosterone levels and their natural muscle build from being biologically male. Because Tony, we're not saying that biologically male, biologically female is not a thing. Because
Right.
it is. That's the reason why. I mean, you're right. Doctors do identify gender and like sex, rather, not gender, sex. And sex is important for medical procedures. Because if you have testicular cancer, you can't just pretend you don't have testicular cancer because you identify as a woman now or a trans woman or what. I mean, not that there's a difference between the two. Trans women are women, but just because you identify as a woman doesn't mean suddenly, boom, I can't get testicular cancer while I still have testicles.
Right. Yeah, no one on planet Earth is making that argument.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I acknowledge that being a biological male, in quotes, because that's a very loaded term that a lot of bigots like to use to put down people in the trans community. I'm not trying to do that. But being a biological male infers some advantage. Even Mateo was saying for some period of time, what I saw personally, when I read into these studies, it showed that no, they just have a straight up advantage. Someone who was able to live 20 years of life with testosterone is basically someone who is allowed to take steroids for 20 years before ever being told, oh, you gotta like get off that thing. They're gonna have an advantage over people who weren't on steroids for 20 years. Yeah. Like, and how long does that advantage last? That is gonna vary from person to person. In general, they're gonna perform better. Is what the study I read shows, right? But at the same time, to get to the root of the question, are sports fair? Because that's what people are upset about. Like there was the one person who transitioned to being a woman, and then they were competing in the UFC, and people are like, "Oh, she broke," or no, they're being bigots. So they're saying that dude broke someone's skull, a man fighting a woman, right? Like that's what they're saying. But the reality is, most of these things are just a bunch of people looking from the outside in. How many of these people have ever laced up gloves and punched someone else in the face? How many fights result in broken skulls or eye sockets? They don't know. All they want to do is make a headline. And the fact of the matter is, the person who transitioned is not the best fighter. They've lost to other cisgendered females. So there are people that are real women, in quotes, as people would say, that have whipped this man's ass, as people would say. Again, these are not my words. I'm saying, right? I think these are very bigoted ways to categorize these people, but this is how people categorize them. And there are multiple cisgendered females that have beat up this trans woman, and she has all the advantage by the standards of what people are saying. And so I just don't think it's so cut and dry, because when you try to get down to brass tacks, when you're saying what makes sports fair, you're basically just going down to, hey, if you got a penis and you're competing with other penises, then it's a fair sport. But the fact of the matter is, the one track star who's a female by every fucking measurement, apparently she has too much testosterone, which is a brand new report that they want to pull out, and they want to expunge all her records and get rid of all the good that she's done in her sport, because they're saying that she's a man. And in her conservative country, all men have decided to never date this woman because society has painted her as a man. So now she's like, well, whatever, I guess I'll be a lesbian to find some kind of companionship. So she's now dating women because men in her country view her as a man, because internationally they don't want to allow her to compete, because ultimately she's too good at her sport. Not because she's a man, not because of any other reason. She's too good. Before they found out that her T levels were high, they already wanted her out because she was breaking records.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show that when it comes to sports, which in my opinion is the most complicated argument when it comes to trans people, because ultimately it's like, yo, treat people how the fuck they want to be treated. Like, I know Tony for many, 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 many years. I met Tony. I called him a different name. Years down the road, I found out people call him Tony. I called him Tony. That's the name I call him now. And even still, we bump into people that call him a different name. Well, you know what I'm saying? I have a name, right? But everybody calls me Pucho, right? That's a name that my parents, my family have given me. I go by Pucho. Like, I like the name, whatever.
Is David the only one here that actually goes by his first name, this given name in everyday conversation?
Yeah.
Because I don't go by my given name either. I go by my middle name.
Yep.
David is the only one.
What a lot of people don't recognize is that my Twitter name is basically David. I looked up the meaning of David, and it's uncle and beloved. So like, though
So
uncle
your
beloved
uncle dad
is basically David. Like, in which is why I use it.
Yeah. No.
So
names are complicated, genders are complicated.
A lot of complications.
Complicated.
So we got off track here, though. Is the point that the question is flawed in and of itself? What makes a man?
What is a man? I don't think what is a man is flawed. I think it's important to know what society views as a man. It's a hard conversation because when you ask what is a man, you get into gender, you get into sex, you get into science, which is like, now you're trying to define, because sex was easy. You got a penis, you got a vagina, but then it turns out, wait, there's this thing called chromosomes. There's other thing, chromosomes get fucked, and then it's like you're now into the biological realm where there's shit. Everything is very complicated. It's not as simple as people like to make it seem.
Here's my criticism of the week for conservative people. Man, y'all hate science until it comes to being able to discriminate against someone. The second you can discriminate against someone, you're like, oh man, look at the science of this issue. It's like, shut up. Shut up. Look at every other bit of science that you ignore because it's inconvenient to you.
Yep. It all goes back. Earlier we was talking about Dewey and Tony themselves brought this conversation up. They were saying how black people are the majority of the people that happen to be in prison for marijuana charges. And then Dewey told the personal story where a white friend of his was able to get off on a not necessarily a charge, but on a process that he and a friend of his who are people of color had to endure. And the fact of the matter remains is that in this country, the way that we police different groups of people are different, even though based on the studies, white people use drugs at similar rates as black people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're policed differently. And it gets granted, I'll grant you that there are also more felony type of things like murders and things like that happen in urban areas where there's plenty of people of color. And again, these conservative these conservative people that hate all science and statistics, they're happy to whip out their stats in these conversations to say, well, look, black people commit the most crimes.
Yeah.
Hispanic people are doing this and that. And then when it ultimately it's just, people are poor and poor people will do fucked up shit to be not poor.
Yeah.
And we should fix the problem instead of addressing the symptoms of the problem. And this, again, is a major, major deviation. I don't know. Maybe we should call this shit the switch or the fucking deviation. We just go on fucking tangents.
The grand switch.
Honestly, here's my take on it. I don't think this is the original intent with the name of the podcast. But I think that what it has become, because this has been our running theme every week, is there's some kind of social or political issue that we talk about. I think that the One Up podcast name has to do with us bettering ourselves and one-upping ourselves and trying to grow and learn and become better. Because you have to. Like, that's what you have to do every single damn day. I've got my own gender biases and race biases and all kinds of terrible, shitty voices in my head that I have to work through every single day. And it sucks because I wish that I had just been like born this person that doesn't see race and doesn't see gender and like just is able to be this progressive, amazing person. But I wasn't. And I was raised in a certain way, and that way had some good issues and it had some bad issues, and values change in society. And I am I'm an artifact. I'm a time capsule of the 1980s style of raising people for my particular people. And I'm trying to be better every single day. I'm just trying to be better. I'm trying to one up myself. And I think that's where our podcast name is evolved into now.
I agree. Completely agree with you.
That's a thing. I like that. How you feel about that, Tony? You want to one up yourself? I've never thought about that one. I just always want to one up y'all weak ass motherfuckers.
I've always one up myself in so many instances.
But you're better than everybody, so in reality, you're one upping everybody.
Sometimes he one ups himself with some Bengay and the big fan and some personal stuff.
Un abanico.
Un solo abanico.
I've one up in life so many times that I don't think I can one up it anymore. But no, that was a great thing to yeah, that's a one up, nigga. That's a one up. That's how you one up. You make these claims and you stick with
you
it.
one upped all of our views at once.
I've one upped so many times I no longer need to one up.
Mateo said, this one up isn't about one upping everybody, but I'm gonna one up everybody with my opinion on the one up. All right,
I
shut
one
this
up
whole shit down. I'm gonna one up myself, but since I'm better than all of you motherfuckers, I'm one upping everybody at once.
That's how strong I am in my one up. I'm un-one uppable, if that's even a thing. Oh. And we're back. Forgiveness.
What are we talking about? We never went anywhere.
Oh, we went. We're not keeping this in here. So where are we?
What are you talking about?
What do you mean? Oh yeah, I don't know. Time loop. All right, what is that?
Time is a flat circle. Who said that?
I think
McConaughey.
that is Matthew
One of the
McConaughey
fucking
in True
features of our
Detective.
time.
I think that our audience would really love to hear the nuts and bolts conversations that we get into on a daily basis. You know what? I'm just going to screenshot our conversations in text from the past week, and I'm just going to put that up on my Twitter.
I'll be
I think
down.
that's some real good content.
I am not afraid of what I text.
On how not to be toxic towards your friends.
Yeah, David, on how not to be toxic.
So, not that it relates to the conversation this week, but the past week, Doey hinted at this multiple times already this episode. We did some conflict resolution. Here's a bit of the views behind the scenes. We did a phone call last Saturday. I was fairly tipsy at a bar. We did a video chat to resolve some conflicts that had popped up in our little group here. And it got me thinking. There's a lot of things actually this past week that got me thinking about forgiveness in general and how you move past issues that you have with other people.
Can you tell that we're toxic?
You can use these situations
toxic.
even in your personal life, in my opinion, in the way I took it and the way that I took these situations that we have talked about and being progressive and healthy in our relationship towards each other. I've also looked back at my prior relationships with other people, and I've realized that maybe I could have been a better person in those relationships.
So to get a little bit more specific, in the last week, the thing that I saw go off on Twitter that actually made me like really start thinking that this is a topic that I was interested to see what y'all thought about was there was a reformed Nazi on Twitter that was upset because the left community had not welcomed him with open arms or something, and they were like, "Well, I renounced those views, so why am I not welcome in your party here on Twitter?" And a lot of people were chiming up that there is no such thing as a reformed Nazi. The only good Nazi is a dead Nazi. A lot of absolute statements. And I'm just curious to pick y'all's brains about that kind of.
Obi-Wan Kenobi said only a Sith deals in absolutes.
That's a good point.
So,
I also
are you fucking Darth Maul and Darth Vader, or are you Luke Skywalker? I don't know.
No, I agree. But there's things like you gotta like look at it as the whole picture, like kind of thing. Like IBM, the people who we buy our chips from nowadays, helped the Nazis document all the Holocaust immigrants and all the people that were in the ghettos. IBM was the one who helped Germany out.
Is this a fact?
Yes, it is.
Fact.
Damn, I'm a child of the computing world. I'm a computer man. I've never heard. This is a new report for me.
Fact. So
it's
it's
the sound
like,
of me googling new information.
do we allow them to continue producing our computer chips because they've committed what we would consider an atrocity in the past, or do we forgive these people and move forward?
So I think that man, and this feels like a fucked up statement to say. I think that forgiving or not forgiving a corporate entity is actually harder than forgiving or not forgiving an individual, and that feels wrong. that feels backwards.
And or country, because we have to forgive the country as well, and the ideology that led that country to those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
We've hinted at this multiple times. Like this has been the theme on this episode, the past two episodes, I guess, if that's how we end up cutting it. Is reparations is a form of like apologizing. Cuomo's sexual assault or sexual harassment allegations or sexual impropriety allegations, whatever the actual correct term is to encompass everything that's been leveraged against him. How do you forgive that? Can you forgive that? To get a little partisan on that, the Republican Party doesn't seem to give a shit about forgiveness or not forgiveness. It doesn't matter. There's a video came out that straight up where that man said that he could grab him by the pussy, and people still voted for that man in huge numbers,
Mateo,
gigantic numbers.
What's wrong with you? That's fucking locker room talk.
Yeah,
that's just boys being boys.
It's fucking locker room
men
talk.
being men.
Why would they?
Let the boys be boys, Mateo.
Why would they even use that talk if that was a thing, though?
Mm-hmm. What's like those? It's like those Twitch streamers that they drop the N word on their stream, and they're like, "Oh man, it was just heat of the moment." That basketball player recently that he used the Jewish like slur against people. And you know what? That slur he used was such a deep cut racial slur to use against someone.
I don't even know. I feel like I remember the context. I just don't remember the slur.
Someone sniped him, and he used a Jewish slur, which I'm not going to repeat.
It starts with a K.
It's with a K.
Okay.
And that is such a deep cut.
I remember that
he got suspended. Like there were consequences. But you know what? Like his excuse is that he didn't know that was a slur. But that is such a deep cut slur to use against someone that you have to be a racist to or a minority that hears a lot of slurs used against you and other people of color to know that that particular slur.
Exactly. It had to come within his family or whoever taught him how to be. That slur had to come how it came to fruition.
I don't necessarily agree with that because like I feel like if you watch not to give the man any kind of defenses, but I grew up in I'm a first generation American, right? I'm born in this country. My parents aren't, but I have brown skin. My brothers have brown skin, and we grew up in the ghetto. So we have a certain lived experience. But when you grow up, so I don't have any white people around me that hate like Jewish people in any sense of the word or anything like that. But when you grow up watching mafia movies, these Italian motherfuckers that are in these movies, they're racist pieces of shit. And yeah, you will find a number of Sicilians in these movies that will make racist and lewd remarks against certain demographics, specifically Black and Jewish communities, as well as Irish people. They're really the three groups of people that mafia people, I'll say. Stereotypically, I'll say, because again, I'm quoting movies here, so I don't know what anybody really thinks here, right?
Yeah, go back and watch Goodfellas. count the racial slurs they use.
Count the N words, the K words, and the all the words and the words against the fucking Irish people. There's a lot of language that we hear that we pick up in different communities. For whatever reason, us people in the ghetto communities, we love Scarface, we love Goodfellas, we love the fucking Godfather, we love just all these movies about rags to riches stories, people that ain't got no business being rich, getting rich. So we identify with these people, we pick up their mannerisms, we pick up their language, and we turn out to say some fucking super racist or xenophobic shit because we don't necessarily know all the baggage that comes along with that language. I say all of that to say that, yeah, I've known the term, I've used the term, not thinking that it was as bad as the internet has informed me it to be, right? So when I hear that it's a deep cut, it sounds like you got to be plugged in to these racist ass communities to know that. But all I got to hear is like, all I got to listen to is Sonny from Casino say some bullshit. And I'm like, all right, Sonny said it, it's the truth.
That's fair. My point is that it's a deep cut to keep like on deck. It's a deep cut to like have just ready to go, just locked and loaded and in the chamber, But I mean, the greater conversation is, what would be an appropriate response to that? What would be an appropriate like request for forgiveness? Because we see a lot of these celebrities that get caught in this kind of thing, and they just seem to have like a boilerplate like template response of. And it's usually a non-response. It's usually I'm sorry if I offended X community with my words, and like
my favorite response to some bullshit is Kevin Spacey. He's straight. As far as I'm aware, from the words that I've read, he straight raped somebody that was under the influence. He came upon somebody, and somebody who wanted to in the industry and all that kind of stuff. So someone who has all the reason to allow someone to take advantage of them, he came on that person, he took advantage of them. And I'll preface all this to say that Kevin Spacey, prior to this, one of my all-time favorite actors. I love a lot of his movies and all that shit. And this has tainted a lot of my favorite movies and things like that. But man, his response was abysmal. Like, given the allegations, he just comes out and he's just like, yeah, I might have done those things, but I'm gay. So like, I'm woke with y'all. And it's like, damn, dude, like, I don't think it works like that. Like, you're a piece of shit regardless.
Like
I think in his defense, which is probably not a good thing to be in his defense, I think once again, there's maneuvers and maybe they're not healthy, and maybe we have to have that discourse on them that gay people have, gay men, that maybe isn't productive or acceptable in our society. And maybe gay men have maneuvered in a way in the past that is not acceptable in society today. And I feel those things are very prevalent, and the issues that we have with how people go about how they're maneuvering in there, whether it be heterosexual, gay, whatever they work in. I feel like a lot of those views are outdated, and we're in a modernism world still trying to use predated things to gain what we want.
So not to associate you with anybody, right? That's not. I'm not trying to do all that. But what you just said is effectively Kevin Spacey and Milo Yiannopoulos' defense against Milo is just straight up like, yeah, like old gay people raping little kids into being gay. That's like
just a rite of passage.
Normal thing that happens, a rite of passage for all gay kids in the and it's like, dude, like, I ain't gay. So I can't talk for y'all, but man, that shit don't sound right. Like,
it's a weird flex. It's a real weird flex.
But you can't also take away from his truth. Like if that's his truth,
you can.
Sure. No, well, I think like maybe in his experience, he might have had a relationship with an older person that he found valuable. I think it's wrong to try to project that on everybody. I think that this is a normal thing, and it's very good. This is a good thing that happens, and it's a very valuable thing that happens for all gay kids.
I think you need to also evaluate like why it's not a good thing to extrapolate onto other people is because there's some aspect of grooming there. Like, I don't know. Once you have 20 years on someone, when someone's 20 years your junior, you've got some influence on that person. Whether you think you do or not, like you are a more established adult and someone is going to look up to you and you have an influence on that person. And there's a lot of tricky things that you have to maneuver and navigate if you're in that kind of relationship. I don't think all of them are necessarily toxic, but I think a good chunk of them are because most people don't keep those things in mind. They don't take those into consideration, that they're basically dealing with someone that they were a full-on adult before that person was ever born.
I think even your 20 years is very fucking generous. I feel like at various stages of my life, right, when I was 15, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, I thought that I was the biggest fucking dumbass in the world. When I looked back and I said, damn, like I fucking believed like some fucking bullshit. Like I watch a movie like Zeitgeist and I'm like, yeah, 9/11's an inside job. And I'm like, damn, I can't believe I spent years of my life believing some stupid fucking bullshit.
I remember the first time we met, we got drunk, and I don't know if this is after a Brooklyn Ale House or not, or the Bronx Ale House or not. We argued about 9/11 that night. We were doing shots of J-Mo and we were arguing about 9/11 that night for sure.
I don't know what the details were, but I guarantee you that anything I was saying was just fucking stupid. and maybe I'll grant it. You're like 3, 4, 5 years my senior. Like I feel like with time comes maturity. And you realize how stupid and how fucking susceptible you are to stupidity. This is a major digress. But I feel like it's also important to realize how susceptible, how stupid, how gullible people are. into believing certain things that you have to realize that at some point, when a person like me, right? There was years in my life where I listened to Ben Shapiro and he was talking the most transphobic shit in the world. And I thought, yeah, a man's a man and a woman's a woman. What's controversial about that? And those were my real beliefs at the time with doing zero research. This is called ignorance, right? At what point do you say, actually, this guy might be a net good on society, and we need to forgive these previous stupidities, transgressions, these acts, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that he was a certain way, and moving forward, he's this other way, and we need to try to figure out how to draw a line and differentiate those two things into the fact that this person might be for the cause. You know what I'm saying?
So maybe this is a cop out, and because this is my answer to a lot of our big questions on here. But I firmly believe this is
communication is key.
It's communication is key, man. Because not to brag on us too much, but I have bragged about our little group text because I think that us four might be one of the healthiest guy relationships that I have with other males.
Dude, I was gonna say we gotta be the toxic. I was gonna ask you last night. Are you deadass? Last night I was gonna ask, like, why are we even friends? Like, should I question if we should ever even be friends?
Yeah, for real.
I feel like we're so toxic.
So here's what I appreciate. I'm curious to hear what Doey appreciates too. Is the top left guy here? He's good. He's got a little priority over me.
Got the top left opinion, you know.
But
the toppist and the leftist. I mean, the rightist.
So here's what I appreciate about us. Y'all communicate. I don't know if this is because we're all brown. We're all people of color, and people of color traditionally are passionate. And I don't think that all racial stereotypes are wrong. People of color tend to, especially of our particular colors, tend to be passionate. We tend to be a little bit more open with our feelings, or at least a little bit more open to showing our feelings, like showing like when there's hurt and when there's anger. I appreciate that y'all communicate that shit clearly. I like the post argument shit that we do, where everyone is like speaking their what is the term now? Speaking your truth. Mm-hmm. You speak your truth. You let someone else speak their truth. I think obviously we run into some bumpy roads there sometimes because we definitely have some arguments that have been completely unresolved. Like the argument is ended, but there's no actual resolution to that argument.
Every single day. Tony will tell you, an argument is deaded. Why are you bringing it up? I said, it ain't dead to me, motherfucker.
That's my whole point. If we set our differences,
but
move on.
What's that, Tony?
No. Let's let Mateo talk.
But I appreciate that there's at least the avenue for communication exists. Like the option exists to discuss this shit. It's not like with some of my other friends where it's like, we just don't discuss this thing because this thing is going to lead to people being pissed off and it's going to lead to bad feelings. So this thing is just, it stays in this box and we bury this box and then we put this box in another box and then we put that box in another box and then we smash it with a hammer, you know?
Because with every entrance of the box, you know what you're getting into. You're like, okay, we've been down this road and it's been very ugly and we haven't really situated the situation. My friendship with you guys, and I say this in the most endearing way, has been one of the most challenging things in my life. But it's so challenging that when it's not there, I look for it. I look for, why aren't my friends challenging me? Why aren't I moving up in the social skill ladder? Like, I want to move forward and become progressive, and I want to understand where my fuck ups lie and maybe where my ideologies and opinions as us. I grew up very Christian, very conservative, so I might think a traditional relationship is what's supposed to be right, but that might not be what's right in now. And I appreciate the challenge, the level of challenge that I get from you guys. And as much as that makes me upset, it keeps me in it because I'm like, there's something to learn here that that hasn't clicked with me.
The problem with people is fear. Fear of having conversations. fear of having conversations with somebody and worrying about how that could affect them more than you trying to actually help them. Like, if I didn't want to ask you certain questions the way because I was fearful of how you would react and I didn't want to hurt you or whatever,
which is valid.
Which is valid, but there's ways of doing it, right? But if I was like, no, I don't want to discuss things with Doughboy or David because of how he would take it because he's sensitive in some aspects of that thing or whatever. Fuck that. I am going to tell you exactly, yo, you're fucking up, just like Pucho does to me almost day-to-day basis. Yo, you're fucking up. What you're saying is probably not socially acceptable. This, that, and the third. I'm still going to have my opinions on it. Some of it I will change. Like, when I first met Pucho to now, I'm a different person.
Absolutely.
Like,
even when you've met me.
Would you call yourself a better person?
Was the biggest piece of shit I ever met in my entire life. I wanted to kill this motherfucker.
Like, I was definitely 100% pure dick, right?
Nah, bro. The fact of the matter is that when you grew up, first generation cultures, you bring a lot of baggage from the mother country, man.
Generational trauma, man. That's
I'm gonna be straight up with you. My parents Dominican through and motherfucking through. All right, we share a border with Haiti. A lot of Dominican people don't like no Haitian people. All right, and that just straight up equates to other black people don't like other black people for some reason. Like, and then you gotta like try to grapple with those beliefs, and then you encounter other Haitian people, and you go, "Wait a minute, like I mean, I know these people. They act pretty normal from my perspective." And then you're like, "Hold on, maybe like." And all that to say is like, my parents are not racist, like in the sense that like they're not hateful towards anybody or anything like that. But like, there are certain things that make you like think, like, man, like certain interactions and things like that you go like, huh, like I was raised a certain way. And I have these guttural reactions to things that may be wrong. And like, you got to address those things. Like, I grew up super hardcore Catholic, right? So what that means is like trans people out the motherfucking door. Homophobia all day. Like that, like that's how I'm raised. Like, trans people don't exist. It's not real. And homophobia is the rite of passage, right? And then like you grow up a little bit. Like I feel like I mentioned it recently. Like I watched that movie Rent. No lie, it's super stupid to say. I feel super ignorant saying it because it seems so simple. But
no. Entertainment and media is so important.
Yeah,
it's stupid how important it is.
And I say that all day, but being the subject of the statement makes me feel so dumb. Like I watched the movie Rent, and you got the character Collins and Angel. They're so fucking in love. They're so in love. I love Rent. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'll sing all the songs. Me and my wife, we love this shit, right? Just to show how far a homophobic person from young has come, right? I'm not gay. And I have very few gay friends, right? But I'll fight for gay rights. Like, straight up. Because to me, that shit is human rights. Like, that shit is just people wanting to be people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it gets to the crux of the conversation of, am I a piece of shit for growing up Catholic? By no choice of my own, am I a piece of shit?
Think about it. If you're advocating,
I would say yes.
Even in the most libertarian aspect, if you're advocating for gay rights, you're advocating for the rights of everyone in this country to be able to practice. And we are a free country. We have our beliefs. We're gonna believe in this, and this is what we're gonna practice. And I feel like everybody has that expression and belief in this country.
It might be crazy to say, but I believe religion brings a lot of bullshit into what society views. And my problem with religion is, yes,
Tony's got a good point. But before he progresses, though, hey, happy Easter, everyone!
Oh wow! I have enough alcohol. Is that enough?
I'll consider that enough.
All right,
I
I'm
gotta
gonna support
switch.
another one. Though. By the way,
not that I actually celebrate Easter or anything. but-
Dad life. I got a hat, Pucho, that says dad life, just like that. Emily got me. Maybe
this
we
is
should-
hashtag dad life.
Yeah, that's what it is on my hat. But
Okay, Tony.
No,
religion.
I'm sorry I
That
cut you
was
off.
the one up. That was the one up. You got dad life. I got hashtag.
no one caught the one up. I'm telling you, I'm a one up master when I don't want to be. This might be my special ability to one up the next person. Or maybe my life is so great, so fantastic that it's always
Damn, so majestic.
so majestic.
Ooh.
Damn.
That's beast, right?
So
to say that's some beast that shit.
phantasmagoriastic.
And that also
How about
Yeah.
how about in my opinion,
All right,
feel
all right,
like-
wait.
all right, back to the hold on, back to the religion.
I just want to cut. I'm gonna cut you off real quick, and I'm gonna let you talk next. I just want to make sure, because the question is a question of forgiveness, and I feel like there's a lot of spilling out life lessons and feelings and upbringings, and the question is: should a person, like all of us, in some respects, because we all have different upbringings, different life experiences. We have some of us have gay, bi, trans siblings that have grown up with different methodologies and life lessons and all that type of shit. Should any of us be forgiven? And why? And what's the cutoff? Who of us should not be forgiven?
I think
Yeah.
the people who should not be forgiven are child rapists.
Damn.
People who that's
So-
this is my opinion. There's
so-
certain
so
things that
I-
are
No, sorry,
unforgivable.
I was just sorry. The child rapist is just strong. It was
That's-
nowhere near the topic of conversation. But continue.
no, we're
Yeah,
saying
I'm talking
forgiveness. We're
about-
saying
I'm talking
forgiveness.
about
There's
the
levels.
There's
levels of forgiveness.
So let's take a low level, okay? Let's take a low level, Tony.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna even cut my tail off. I'm a piece of shit today. I'm on my doughy shit. All right.
That's a fact.
Here's the question. What are your beliefs? Oh, doughy, don't ask.
Don't
You
ask,
cut
yeah,
everybody
my
off
nigga.
all day, every
Edward
day. This is the most
Scissorhand over
toxic
there.
shit. You want to get into fucking Facebook Messenger fucking argument? All right, let me stop. All right, all jokes aside, right? This is when Mateo brought up forgiveness, right? This is really Mateo's topic, right?
Yeah.
You saw this show on Twitter. You want to talk about it, right? My main thing is this, right? There are people who have beliefs, like me, that I believe no matter what you do, no matter how harsh, no matter how bad, I believe in rehabilitative justice.
Redemption.
I believe that a human is capable, for the most part, of being treated in such a way that they could come back to society after some period of time and be functioning. They could exist within society.
And I think we're pretty linked on that, because as I've gotten older, I don't know that I believe in the death penalty. I don't
Right.
know that I believe that there's
I
anything
don't.
you can do that is so bad that you should be killed as a result of that.
Oh, I disagree. And that's horrible of me. I think like no, I'm wrong. I don't believe in the death penalty, but I believe
I think it's few and far. I think I think the burden of proof to prove that someone is such a risk to society that they can't be rehabilitated. There's no redemption path for this person. I think that the burden is so high to prove that I don't think that the death penalty should exist.
right. I have a strong opinion. I think it's impossible.
Because I think once you glorify it that much, like, oh, he did so bad that he has to get this. I think that people start to try to reach for that. I think
mine isn't even that. I think as pessimistic as I am in a lot of things, I think that people can change. I think that's all it comes down to. I think it comes down to whether you believe people can change or
but
not.
that has nothing to do with forgiveness.
we're talking about mass. In my opinion, mass suicide, killers. No, those people need to be put to sleep.
That's not.
Those people need to be, in my opinion, at
No,
at
I'm saying
that
that's not what
level.
Mateo's not. That he's
No, that's
disagreeing
what
with
he's talking
Mateo
about.
right
Mateo
now.
thinks that a person like fucking Summer Sam ass motherfucker, he could be rehabilitated in such a way that he could function.
Yeah, that's what I'm
in
saying. So he's
society.
disagreeing
No, I
with
think-
Mateo's idea right now.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I,
he
Yeah.
agrees.
Okay, yeah.
I think that the guy that committed the atrocities in Las Vegas, that guy can never be redeemed. There's
Perfect.
nothing that he could do in his lifetime that could ever redeem him from what he did at that event.
So
Okay.
my thing.
So I think that's a wait, hold on. I think that's a very important factor there. Because I think that's where the crux of the argument lies, is that people feel, and this is me giving a lot of charitability to these Twitter lefty communists, as anarchists, whatever people that I'm not a big fan of. Okay, I mean, this is where me and Mateo bump heads, right? Because where we lie are kind of like at the borders of these regions where we right. I think personally, right, that a person who does a thing that's wrong with enough rehabilitation, with an infinite amount of time, right?
And
Infinity is
resources.
impossible, and resources, that person could be rehabilitated, right?
And sometimes that rehabilitation is going to take the form of medication and other things of that nature, like because people have chemical imbalances in their fucking brain, and like there's a lot of aspects to consider here. We're talking a hypothetical. Obviously, Pucho and I are talking a hypothetical. We're talking an ideal world. We're talking a utopia where you can actually spend this amount of time and resources and on individuals, and the system isn't broken, where we just need to move bodies as fast as possible through the legal system and through various aspects of that.
Right now, as a society, right, we have a view of what's called as punitive justice, which means someone does bad thing, they should be
Punish them.
That's what punitive means, right? They should be punished to a certain extent that matches whatever wrongdoing that they've committed, right? I believe that this is a toxic view. It doesn't get to the crux of the issue. And as we hinted to on a previous episode, our recidivism rates do not match with the fact that punishment equates to good behavior. People get out of prison, and given the opportunities and the options that they have, they go back to crime and they do wrong things and they go back to jail.
Yeah.
So whatever punishment you gave them the first time did not work for them to stop doing whatever the fuck they wanted to do the second time around.
And these are the statistics that racists love. Where it's like, look at all these black and brown men that are recommitting crime. You know why? Because they're predisposed to committing crime because they're black and brown. Like, it's this circular logic nonsense in this system that they created that determines what kind of people we are and how worthy we are of redemption.
So
I think there's a serious issue, especially in that world, that especially the mentally ill and people who cannot take care of themselves. There's nothing to do with them in our society.
Yeah,
There's
but almost all mentally ill people have some form of medication that if they kept up with it and they kept up with therapy and they kept up with the number of prescriptions that their psychiatrists and doctors offer them, if they had the resources and the money to do so, that they could ultimately be some form of functioning member of society. I'm
agree.
not saying everybody, I'm saying almost everybody.
But that's not always what happens, and that's a very big. If you see it the most in New York.
Well, I mean,
You see every bum in America, and I say bum not in a term to degrade anybody, because again, I'm a ghetto fucking bastard. So I'm just using the words that I grew up with, and I'm not advocating for these things. When you look at the homeless, right? A lot of homeless people represent a sector of society that have mental illness such as PTSD, anxiety, depression. They're drug addicts. These types of people, they do not fit in our society. Why? Because in our society, these people need to be locked into an asylum. They need to be locked in prison for being addicts, or they just need to die via death penalty. That's the way that our society treats these people, but it ain't right. These people need medication, they need psychiatrists, they need work programs, they need ways to rehabilitate these people back into society. And it makes me very uncomfortable when someone says, my most uncomfortable thing is when someone says, oh, X person raped a person. Right? And then they go, oh, yeah, I believe in rehabilitated justice. I want people to be, but I can't wait till they go to prison and they get fucked in the ass by blah, blah, blah. And it's like, damn, what the fuck?
It's like, no, that's not rehabilitation. That's Solomon shit right there. That's the role of Hammurabi right there.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, like you want people to get fucked in the ass for doing some wrong thing. It's like, that's fucked up. Like they are bad. They are bad people right now.
It's
feel that way though.
Yeah. I don't think it's right. I'm in the minority of people.
It doesn't make it right. And like me personally, honestly, like, man, I will tell you, those Korean revenge films are some of the best movies. They're some of my favorite movies where someone gets done wrong. Like usually they kill their wife or they kill their kid or they kill their family or something. And then they spend the entire rest of the movie just fucking them up. Just enacting violence and justice on them. Justice. Let's do some air quotes there.
So, Mateo,
but I don't think in the real world that shit actually works. I think it's entertaining popcorn movie nonsense where you get to live out you get to see this fantasy of, and now I feel better. I think a lot of the Korean revenge films do a good job of showing that even after this person gets their revenge and they get what they want, they usually have this come to Jesus moment where they're like, I still am not happy, because revenge doesn't make you happy. And that's why I believe in rehabilitation, is because that true justice doesn't exist. Justice doesn't exist. I couldn't kill your daughter and then you kill my daughter and now we're both square. We're good. It's like life goes on, because that's not the way it works.
So going back to forgiveness, you saying that you can forgive people for their crimes or their wrongdoings, right?
I think for me personally, I haven't had to forgive anyone for a crime against me, knock on wood and all that fun stuff. I'm curious about this from all kinds of aspects. With us specifically, just because I do enjoy the way that this particular group handles conflict resolution. I'm curious what forgiveness is for you. Like, let's say I wronged you. Let's say I crossed one of your Tony's uncrossable lines.
So before we get into what
do you believe in forgiveness? Do you believe in redemption? Because those two are slightly different things. You can forgive someone without feeling like they've actually redeemed themselves. Like there's a slight distinction.
Yeah.
So before we go, hold on, Doughboy, hold on. I've been trying to fucking talk, and y'all, let me just get this out.
Are you saying that I've been
Joey, let Tony talk for a second here, because he's been trying to talk for a little bit.
Tony hasn't been able to talk at all.
So I literally want to ask you this. You're saying that you are able to forgive after they go through to the proper process and procedures of their wrongdoings. You're saying you're able to forgive, Mateo?
No, I am saying that I believe that person can be rehabilitated. I think rehabilitation is different than forgiveness when you're talking about from a legal perspective.
Not legal. I'm talking about you. If you was wrongdoed by somebody.
In what way? Are we talking?
I kill your mother.
Okay.
Right? Dramatic ass shit, right? I kill your mother. I go through the proper procedures and the process and reformed or whatever. You will forgive me?
I think that I would hope. That's a situation I've never been in, and I hope I am never in, where someone kills my mother and I have to make this distinction. But I think that I would personally hope that you are capable of being rehabilitated. I think that forgiveness itself in that particular situation, because it is such an extreme, I think that forgiveness is between you and whatever creator you may or may not believe in.
So you will not forgive. Back to the you will not forgive.
In that extreme situation, I don't know what the path for forgiveness would be.
There will be none.
Because I think forgiveness is a dialogue.
I have a good one. and it's very personal. When my brother died, there were people present in the house when he was ODing, and a lot of the post traumatic stress like comes from those people being in the house while he was there and them not checking on my brother. And a lot of people could say that's none of their business. If somebody's sleeping in the next room, you allow them their private space to sleep. And I agree with that. And for a long time, I had this conflict internally as I am my brother's keeper. I hold that situation differently than other people would hold it. If I saw my brother in a room for 10 hours, I would go check on him. But that's because he's my brother, and I would check on him in that way. I can't hold other people to my standards and of what a brother should do or what a friend should do. And for a long time, I blamed those people, and I use them as an excuse as, oh, they didn't do something, and
I
it's the wrong way to heal.
I
Um,
heard some of that anger way back when, like when that was a little bit, that wound was a little bit more fresh. I definitely heard some of that anger.
Yep.
yeah, it's not what I believe now. If it was what I believed in back then, I probably need to apologize to those people because it came from a place of like extreme hurt and a very tender spot that was being
So,
touched, and you don't really understand how to deal with that situation. You know what I
so
mean? But I say now, just for those people, if they're listening, like I completely forgive you. It's not anybody's fault. It's very misfortunate things that happen in people's lives, and it's not anyone's fault in particular. You know?
I think Doey actually answered part of my question. Is that for him that's a huge level of forgiveness there. That's a huge level of redemption, honestly, which relates to my Twitter thing because like this is the shit that pisses Spoochu off about some of leftist Twitter is these purity tests of once a Nazi, always a Nazi. You're tainted. You're banned. You're branded for life. But what is the alternative? Like, is the alternative like you've ever been involved in Nazi philosophy? Now we murder you. Like now we execute you because that's not the party that I want to be part of. I think just by the philosophy itself, I have to believe that redemption exists in those extreme situations.
No, there could be redemption, but you're just not gonna you're not willing enough to forgive.
Well, redemption and forgiveness are two separate things. I think this is where they're getting lost in the weeds in the discourse that I watched on Twitter. I don't personally have to forgive you for being a Nazi and having hateful philosophies towards me because I'm brown, because I'm darker than you, or whatever. Redemption is something else. Forgiveness is a personal thing. Redemption is something else. You can renounce those philosophies. You can start pushing against those philosophies, and you can start trying to turn people outside of that lifestyle. And I think that is a path to redemption. I think there is absolutely a path to redemption there. Whether there's a path to forgiveness or not, though, is you, and that is a conversation with you and every single person that you run into in your life.
So you're not down for an eye, right? You disagree with that?
I don't think it actually fixes anything.
No, it doesn't.
What does that mean? Sorry, just to get the crux of your question. What do you mean if you disagree with
Like
that?
you don't believe with the whole process of an eye for an eye, revenge.
I mean, do you
whether or
that?
not
Do you
whether
believe that
you're not. Your question isn't answering my question.
you didn't? What question was your question?
Well, I said, what do you mean by whatever the fuck? So now you're saying an eye for an eye, right? Like,
Yeah, I was asking.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
What does that mean if you don't believe in an eye for an eye?
Like, do you? All right. Believe. Take the word believe. Do you agree with an eye for an eye?
He's talking redemption versus punitive punishment.
Sorry, because okay, let me just get down to the nitty gritty, right? Me and Tony have more disagreements than anyone could ever imagine on planet Earth. I don't even know how we're friends at this point. because we fight over every single fucking thing, right? But
Not
for whatever
everything.
reason, we're friends. It works for us. We like to fight. That's our personality. We're fighters, right? But a question like Mateo, right? In my view, when Mateo answered, I don't know, man. I've never been in that situation. I don't know how it'd be if you killed my mom. I don't know. I'd like to believe. To me, that's a very, in my view, a very wishy-washy answer for me.
Oh, it is.
Think about this, Tony. Imagine, right? How many times did I tell you you're wrong for doing a thing, right? A lot, right?
Yes.
And how many times do you then tell me, hey, man, but some other day you did that same thing?
Yeah.
Right. And how often did I tell you, yeah, I was wrong for that?
Yeah. You said it the first time yesterday or the day ago.
And last night we got into a fight that played out exactly the same way, where I told you, you're a piece of shit for doing XYZ thing. And you say, yo, you did an XYZ thing. And I say, yeah, motherfucker, I'm a piece of shit. In different words, right? And all that to say, I don't think asking a person a very personal question, right, in that sense is the right approach, right? Because I would tell you, I would not want society to operate on the code of Hammurabi, which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
You do the
Which
same
is if
thing,
someone, huh?
You do the same thing in conversations. You use drastic measures in conversation to wield your point of view onto somebody else. You do that a lot.
I think you're using my arguments in the wrong way, but I'm gonna get somewhere where I think you'll agree with, even though you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm wrong for what you do.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Let me just finish, right? I would not want society to operate in a form of a code of Hammurabi, right?
Yeah.
Which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. If someone goes and hurts my brother, I get to hurt their brother or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
But I would do that thing. I could acknowledge the contradiction within my heart, which is I want to do the thing that I know is wrong. I know it's wrong. But I know that not to tap into our earlier conversation where we're talking about what makes a man and a woman. I am a man that's very emotional, unbelievably so. Someone says something, it hurts me. When I watch a sad movie, I cry like a fucking baby. And when someone wrongs me, you're my greatest enemy. I want to wrong you more than anyone has ever been wronged before. That's how I operate, right? But I acknowledge that's not the healthiest way for society to exist. If you kill my mother, I can't even express the words of the type of revenge that I want to enact on you, right? Mm-hmm. But I also acknowledge that is not the way that a society should behave, and it's not the society that I want. Well, my statement previously is very selfish. I want to be the only person that's capable of doing the type of revenge that I think is right because I'm me. I'm the god of my universe in my head, right? Like I think I'm right. Everything I decide is correct. And any wrongs that anyone does, I know the exact answer, and I could enact the correct justice.
You're like a Viltrumite.
Yep, I'm a Viltrumite. I will Viltrumite punch you, and you guys don't even know how drastic that punch is, okay? Because you guys are only 4 episodes in, and I've read 150 issues of this goddamn my favorite comic of all time. And when I tell you that a Viltrumite punch is the most destructive thing anyone could ever do in the goddamn universe of comic books, I'm telling you that a Viltrumite punch will end your entire fucking career of any other thought that you could ever think of ever, okay? So, and with that being said, I acknowledge that Mateo not being able to tell you what type of thing that he would want to do in response to someone murdering his mother, I think his response is wishy-washy. I'd kill that motherfucker. That's my view. And I also acknowledge and I agree with you that that's just straight up wrong.
No, it is wrong.
The correct thing is to take that person who did that wrong thing and to put them through whatever type of rehabilitation is required to make them a functioning member of society, because I think that would be the net good on society, but that wouldn't change my feelings. If I saw that person, I still might do whatever wrong thing that's in my heart. And then I deserve to go through whatever process to change my view. And maybe that's why you need pre type of psychiatry, pre type of treatment to deal with the type of trauma that's involved with the type of pain that people go through when things go wrong.
That's my point, though.
Very one good input, and I'm just gonna throw this in there. Recently, there was a versus between Gucci Man and Jeezy. Jeezy sent somebody to kill Gucci Man. And it was very apparent that on stage, that shit was still playing out. As much as those people got together and said, we're going to do this and we're going to have this verse.
Wait. The man actually hired like a hitman to kill this person?
Allegedly.
To kill Gucci.
I don't want to
Gucci
interrupt
Man.
you as well, but I want to know how this comes full circle because I've never hired a hitman.
No. It's the same thing, in my opinion, as saying, why can't Gucci Man grow forward? How come Gucci Man can't be the bigger person when
I think we're
missing?
missing an aspect of the story. There's a versus, which for people who aren't aware, is this within the last year, there's a hip hop trend, and it's even transgressing. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's expanding to other musical genres where basically you got one artist, you pit their music against another artist, and you make a playlist, and whoever playlist it wins the competition wins. So when he says there's a Gucci Man versus Young Jeezy versus, that's what we're talking about. So given those circumstances, why would someone try to murder someone over a musical competition? Or is there some history here that
there's history behind it?
There is a history behind it, and you saw it play out in live fashion where one person still felt some type of way, which is why after the song he dedicated to, they started getting very personal and started playing diss songs towards each other that they had during the era. And one of the diss songs that came up happened to be Gucci Man rapping, explaining what happened in that altercation where he had to kill one of Jeezy's homeboys. And then after the song, Gucci Man starts saying, we're smoking on that nigga. He says his name and he says, we still smoking on him. And Gucci was like, oh, you got to grow up. We're moving on past that. We're past that, bro. We're growing up. You still talking about the same shit.
Who's smoking on who?
Jeezy said that, right?
Some names
he botched the name. Jeezy said that. Gucci Man said we're smoking on Pook.
I think that was who killed who?
Gucci Man killed Jeezy.
Wait, sorry?
He's fucking it up. Gucci Man.
Who killed who?
Gucci Man killed one of Jeezy's homeboys.
Okay. And then who's smoking? Who said he's smoking on
Gucci Man, he said he's smoking on that nigga.
So Gucci killed the man and then said we're smoking on that person.
Yes.
After the verses.
What does it mean to smoke on a person? I've never heard this characterization.
This is a Chicago drill rap reference. When
so
they
smoke on someone is
you say you smoking on somebody, that means you smoking on their dead body. Like you
flexing on someone you did something wrong on. Okay.
Yeah.
You killed.
Much. So then Gucci Man killed the person. Well, Gucci Man's people killed the person. Gucci Man's okay. All right.
Let me set the story up for you. Jeezy sent people to kill Gucci Man. Gucci Man then in that altercation killed one of Jeezy's friends.
Okay. And then Gucci Mane told Jeezy, "Yo, we smoking on homeboy."
Yeah, he made a whole song on it.
And then Jeezy said, "Yo, you need to grow up. Like you need to move past that." What a piece of shit! He sent someone to die. I don't even want to get into that.
That's years later.
Again, if I was homeboy's cousin, I'd kill that motherfucker.
So now,
I think
I would also agree that maybe he should go to rehabilitation and become a better person and all that stuff. And again, I grew up. I tell you straight up, man. I grew up. I'm a ghetto fucking bastard. I grew up with a lot of bigoted views. I have a lot of baggage in my life that doesn't make me the functional person that I wish I could be.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to rehabilitation. I need to be rehabilitated right now.
Before the interjection with Gucci Man and shit, what I was trying to get back with that Pucho is that's what I was trying to get out of Mateo. His true emotional response. Not
his
the wishy-washy.
true emotional response is that he doesn't know what he would do given the circumstances.
You would know.
No. He's saying that he doesn't know. I'm telling you that I'm more. I could tell you this, over the years of knowing Mateo, I'm more of an emotional person. Like I act more on my emotions than Mateo does. So I could tell you that just straight up off of my feelings, that I would do a lot of the more
Negative aspect.
Like, no, not necessarily negative, but like the reactionary type of things, right?
So,
The type of things that is like on the fly, I'm gonna just do that thing because that's what came to me. I'm gonna do more of those actions than Mateo. Mateo will take more of a moment to think of his actions.
So Tony, here's the thing, man. I think I've hinted at this bit of like some bits of me in this past episode, maybe 2 episodes, depending on how we're cutting this, about some biases and things like that I have in my head that I have to fight every day. There is a very angry man inside of me. So there is, but I work every day to be better than that. I think at the root, people are animals. That is 100% the fact about people. We are all animals, and there is definitely an emotional response. But when you're asking me a question, and it's a moral question of what I think is right, I have what I would like to be. I have what I would like to attain to be. I think it'd be tough to live by that Hammurabi code. I think killing another person is that's a big deal. That's a tough thing. Yeah. I don't know if I could kill another person. Like, I know that I physically could kill another person, but I don't know that I could. I think that would destroy me, honestly. Killing someone else.
Killing somebody will change you.
Even if that person had killed my mom, I think you put me in a room with that person, they're tied up, I've got a baseball bat or whatever, I think that would destroy me. I don't think that that's any form of justice. Like, I don't think there's any aspect of destroying yourself to destroy someone else because they destroyed someone you love that actually in any way that equation leads to me thinking that there's justice in the world or that the world is balanced. There's a lot of complicated aspects to that, and then you have to extrapolate that. You have to extrapolate that to, do I think that if I were to offload that responsibility of killing that person to the justice system, does that make the equation better? Does that make it like, does a negative mom plus a positive death for this guy, does that equal justice in my mind? No. Unfortunately, I don't think killing justifies more killing.
No, it doesn't. But
you want to talk emotional response, I'd be devastated. I can't speak any further than that. I don't know what would feel right to me because I'd be devastated.
I think for me, right, killing somebody who killed somebody that I loved, right, and that is different, accidental or whatever, or on purpose, right? If you kill someone that I love, my mother, my sister, my dad, my wife, my future child, I am going to kill you. 100%. I am going to kill you. And I do not think I will have a second thought about the after effect. Other than me in pain and sorrow of the loved one that I lost.
So you're okay with revenge?
In a way. I'm so hurt. Maybe it's a mental block in my head that to the point to where I think I get so hurt, right? That at that point, there's no holds bar.
Sorry.
Like, you know what I mean?
Earlier you brought up statute of limitations, right?
Yes.
Because
for relationships.
This is also a very simple question, in my opinion, that a lot of people view complicated, right? Say someone killed your loved one, right? 20 years later, you meet this person.
They've gone through the system.
Would you kill them on sight? And what do you think is right?
See, well, that's what the twist is, right? The twist is adding in that, what do you think is right?
That pause is indicative of a conflict that should exist because we exist within ourselves and we exist within our society.
I think it's a very young and it's a very naive position to think that you could very easily kill someone without any destruction of your own sense of self.
No, you're going to lose yourself. I agree.
I think we are existing in 3 different positions. There's probably infinite positions here. Where Mateo's saying like he doesn't know and he doesn't like the idea. Well, for sure he's against society doing this, but he doesn't know about himself. I'm telling you straight up, if I was in a room with the killer of my mother and I had a bat, I'm going to town. But I also tell you that it will destroy me because I don't know how it comes to terms of doing a thing that I think is the most heinous thing that any human could ever do. That would have to become the very thing that I think is the worst that you could ever be, right?
That's
so in this hypothetical though, Puchel, is it illegal what you're doing?
Is it illegal? 100%.
Okay,
because I would never want society to operate on these rules.
Okay, so you're understanding
into the worst situation you could imagine.
So you're understanding in this hypothetical where you're alone in a room, you catch this person unaware or whatever, and you murder them. You're going to jail, right?
100%.
You have a wife, you have a daughter.
Yep.
And so is that the right decision?
Right, exactly. That's even where your question is doubly loaded.
Yeah.
Because you're not saying right from a societal perspective. You're also saying right from what's the right thing to do with my family? Like, if I make the most money and then I go and do a wrong thing, I'm effectively casting my family into poverty in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. Is that a correct thing to do? And the obvious answer from outcomes is that it's stupid, right? Because one person hurt one person, and by you following up, you're going to hurt an additional person, plus yourself, plus your wife, plus your kid. And then it's like, all right, just from a person's perspective, it's 1 versus 5. It's kind of stupid.
That's why they say
philosophy, but I think utilitarianism is all about maximizing the good that comes out of the world. So in a utilitarian aspect, it would be the worst possible decision to make.
No, that's why they say an eye for an eye, the whole world will be blind, because that shit makes no fucking sense. But you like to go back to that question, Pucho, it would be different. I don't think I would kill him.
Sorry, what's the question?
You're saying after 30 years pass by when that person killed my mother and I see him, do I still have the initial reaction of killing him? And I would say no, because of time. Because of the amount of time that he has. Do I sit there and look at him and be like, I want to kill you now?
So which one is right though? Which instance of time Tony is right? The 30 years later Tony that believes that enough time has passed from the incident, or the Tony that exists right after that moment that would kill that person? As you said, you would take the baseball bat to them or whatever
and
it was.
And according to you, you wouldn't even give a second thought. But 30 years later, you wouldn't do it. So to me, that would be a second thought. That's a contradiction for me. But
that's same. It's an interesting.
It is. So that's why it's reaction, right? 30-year me, that is wrong if I kill him.
So what that tells me though actually is that even your reaction in your mind, you understand that it's wrong.
Oh, it's 100% wrong what I'm going to do to this person, but fuck it. Literally, fuck it. Like
me personally, I want to be better than the animal that I think we all are. You ask me my emotions in the moment, they're complicated. They'd be overflowing, they'd be ridiculous. But I think there's a lot of aspects to it, and I think it's a lot harder to kill someone than most of us realize. I have never been in a situation where I've thought about killing someone to that level. So
that's incorrect, Mateo. It's not hard to kill someone. It's hard to live with it. That's the issue. It's not hard. It's not hard for me. It's not hard for me.
It's not hard. It's not. It doesn't mean that it's hard to do a thing that could kill a person. I mean, like, I live in a house with a baby. I don't even want to get into how ridiculous the statement I just made is, but like, I'm a big motherfucker. Like, I could do anything I want to most people.
Which I believe in you. I believe you are way, way stronger than the average baby.
Right. I don't know. I've never met a baby that could overpower me.
You're basically Superman to a baby.
I'm basically Superman. I'm a Viltrumite. I could Viltrumite punch a baby, right? But it's not so much the difficulty of the action, it's the mental fortitude required to do such an action, right? I don't know if you know people that have killed people, but they live with this shit.
They have, yeah.
I have family that are military people. I know people that have been in fucked up situations, and they live with the shit. It's not common that a person ends the life of another person and just carries on like nothing ever happened. That's not a common
That's why I said
sentiment.
I
I've
think.
never met a person. I've only met people that just say such a thing and never lived it, right?
Yeah.
I've never met a person that has told me that I've done a thing that they could, like, with all honesty, be honest about, that they've done a thing and live with it. Like, if I don't care because that was the right thing, and I don't like, they live with it. Even if the person that they had to end was heinous and all these other things, they live with it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard. So another person with a life, a wife, a children,
there's people
family,
like that. You
parents,
just,
the same mother that you love so much. Even the worst person on planet Earth has a mom, man.
no, but there's people like that. We just haven't met them.
So I would like to take this
There's
back a
people
little
like
smaller
that.
scale, though, here with the last bit of this conversation. In your personal life, like in situations that don't involve your mother being killed by this stranger, since we went to like Nazis and your mother being killed and all kinds of crazy tangents. Let's take it back to the last 2 weeks. Tony and Doey, like, you two have argued a lot over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's because we're trying to create something here and we're grinding, and there's a lot of stress that goes along with trying to create something. I think I don't know that if any of us realize just how stressful content creation could be. Although it's weird to call myself a content creator still, and like,
I would kill the living shit out of Tony in a video game. Like in Overwatch, we get into a skirmish in between matches, and I lay his ass down.
That's my favorite thing in the world. Is that fighting in between the matches?
I whip out the Junkrat, I whip out the Reaper, and he don't even know what hits him. He wants to be Bastion. I pick the weakest healers, and the slowest motherfucker, the snail. He doesn't even know how to behave. He doesn't know how to act. Tony be like, you want to come at me?
I go to my underrated damage girl. I go to Mora in those in between matches.
Not even in your wildest dreams could any of you defeat me in that shit. Not even.
Yeah.
On a one-on-one match, I would destroy you. But to go back to your topic. Sorry, Doba, go ahead.
No, I remember when we were kids, and you could tell when somebody had an obvious issue with you when you were playing GoldenEye, Halo. For some reason, these people will come after you like a meteor. You're like, yo, what did I do to you? Like
that hidden hate.
Obvious hate. Like, y'all gonna kill this.
So, you know how it happens, right?
They said your mom was hot.
They pick some soldier or whoever, and then they lose. And then the next game, they're like, fuck it. You know what? You're a piece of fucking shit. I'm going to pick Odd Job. And I'm going to fucking end you, okay? I'm going to come at you with the shortest motherfucker on planet Earth. And guess what? You can't fucking hit me because I'm too fast for your ass. I'm going to end your shit, okay? We play License to Kill, so I'm going to shoot you first, motherfucker, all right?
You remember?
Golden gun only.
Golden gun only.
Some big-ass fucking heads. We playing DK head slappers, License to Kill. All right, we're going to end your shit, okay? All you're going to see is my little fucking hat when you see that blood fucking flow across your screen, okay? That means Odd Job ended you, okay?
You remember there was no crouching animation, so people would be crouched and just be aiming their gun
sliding, dude.
But to go back to
on their knee.
To go back to what you were saying,
Odd Job low is a lower than anyone.
Low. But Jaws crouched is like a normal person. Headshots all day.
To go back to what you were saying, Mateo, which I kind of forgot now because of that fucking conversation.
Damn, I didn't forget. What do you need to be reminded of? Mateo's question comes down to this, right?
In personal relationships.
Yeah.
You make a decision, whether it be right or wrong. 30 years later, you makes a decision.
No, not that.
Whether
not
it
that,
be right
not,
or wrong.
Not that. Just
there
right
are
now.
Two different decisions. Who is right and who is wrong, and why?
I wanted to take it more small scale. I wanted to take it to like just their arguments in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's saying why.
You're right. I forgot.
I'm assuming that these two are cool with each other now, but these two were at each other's throats. Bucho and I had to act like daddies in our group chat.
That's the problem.
What's funny is I don't feel like a daddy at all. I feel like the root of toxicity in a lot of situations.
We had to spank our little boys and get them back in line.
You know what I told these guys last night is that Mateo's like straight up like he must feel like the fucking dad of the group. And I'm like, I'm the only motherfucking dad in this group. But I feel like, Mateo's the dad of this group, whatever that means, you know?
My thing is, some people take certain things too fucking sensitive, right? And I'm an Doughboy.
Wow,
You already
Hurry
offended.
up, get through it.
I don't take a lot of things to offense easily. It takes a lot of badgering or something, or the continuation of some shit. No, that's not.
I would say that first off, I might agree with that. That's a lie aspect a little bit more than you would, because I think you might secretly be the most sensitive one out of all of us.
I am not,
but I also think that you tend to just say things. You just tend to just react. You're a very reactionary person, and that's fine. That's the thing we know about you. But it leads to hurt feelings. And sometimes you do this in a passive aggressive way where you haven't even said a thing that's going to hurt a feeling yet, but you preface it with this statement of, oh, before Doey gets offended, I just need to toss this out here. And what you toss out is a dig for a statement you haven't even made yet that might be a dig in and of itself.
So by me saying, yo, don't get offended, but I think you're acting like a bitch, that's automatically offensive?
It's the because that's in that. It's the because that's in that, because the statement is not, yo, don't be offended. It's, yo, don't be offended because I know this aspect about you. Here's a personal dig on your personality.
Because I know that every
no, because this is the thing.
You want to fucking cry about it, and then proceed into, hey man, you know, sometimes when you eat certain foods, you know, they can make you go pee. It's like, ain't nobody trying to hear that bullshit no more. You attacked me 4 seconds ago, okay? I don't hear about no food.
My thing is that when you say something, right, the person might not say anything, right? This is a tactic that some of these people in this group do.
Wow. Just be straight up. Be honest with your life. Say me.
So Pucho's a prime example of this, right? Doughboy does it too, though. This is my issue. Doughboy does it sometimes without even knowing, but he does it.
There's a difference. I'm proud to be called out. Doughboy is scoffing at the idea of being targeted by anything.
Doughboy would hold a feeling.
Have some good gifts that we could make of Doughboy's face up there.
Doughboy would hold his feeling in, not say nothing, be like, all right, okay, I apologize, I'm sorry. Day later, bring something up that he knows would trigger the person, me probably being the example, he'll bring it up. And then when I start going in, he falls back as a victim blamer.
Oh, damn, that's a thing.
And then this is where the conversation goes left.
It could be a possibility that I don't handle our arguments in the best fashion. I wouldn't doubt it. Well, and maybe anger clouds my vision, or maybe like I was so upset about our previous conversation that I'm not handling the future conversation with like tact.
That's what I'm curious about, because I know that you two have at least forgiven or resolved the argument or something of that nature. But what makes that happen for y'all? Like what I would assume with our group that we're not just burying these arguments.
No,
sometimes they come back up. I think we're pretty good at least expressing when hurt happens. Because I have bragged about this group. I'm 100% serious about that. I have bragged about how our ability to communicate at an emotional level.
Pucho's the only person that brings shit back up. He's the only one that won't let shit die sometimes, even though when it's deaded. He'll bring it back up, and that shit there fucking irritates the shit out of me. Because once, and I got to understand that from Pucho's aspect, he's not over it yet. I can be over it, but he's not. I see that nasty ass thumb. So, like, and in a way, I understand it, but I hate it. Because what he does, he brings it up in such a fucking way that he's going to succeed at irritating you. And once he's got you irritated, now I am going to be. So he becomes Super Saiyan and fucking goes ham on getting you pissed off because you pissed him off. So now at that point, there's no conversation. Now it's just 1,000% ignorant attacks. It doesn't matter who's involved.
I don't agree with that.
No, that's what you do. That's what you do.
See,
no. I'm saying. All right.
Just a side note here. I think Pucho is the only one that I've never out of the three of y'all. I think Pucho is the only one I've never actually argued with. I've debated with Pucho a lot. We've had so many drunken debates, especially when he was here in town and he was the only one visiting me here in Austin that one time. Like, we had a lot of drunken debates, but I don't think I've ever actually argued with Pucho.
I've argued with you.
Oh, 100%, definitely,
definitely.
We
Give me an example.
We've butted heads. We've gotten into beef before. I know that I've offended Doey before.
What
I don't know if
beef?
it was a straight up argument, but I know that I've offended Doey
This is
before.
curious. I'm curious
talk
now.
for a couple of days. We had to do some conflict resolution.
What beef did I have
The only
with
time
you?
I've ever been mad at Mateo is when the other day I thought Doey said what Mateo said. Mateo sent a text and I thought it was Doughboy, and I was like, "This is right in line with all the bullshit." And then I was like, "Oh wait, it's Mateo. Okay, hold on, wait. I don't have all the fucking prior baggage to be mad at him about this. Let me dig a little deeper. Let me find out like what he really believes here, right?" And to Tony's point, this is why I also say, when you said, "Hey, you know, me and Pucho, we had to be the daddies of the group," I honestly feel that at times I could be the most toxic, because when it comes to forgiveness, I think I'm the best, but also I think I'm the worst at the same time. I think what some people view as forgiveness is not what I view as forgiveness. I think that when people like to say sorry, and people love to say that they were wrong before and they're going to move on, I don't value that statement almost at all. Just like 1%.
Pucho's an action person.
I view it as, this is a person who views that a thing that they were is wrong, and they're viewing this moment as a learning opportunity to be better in the future. But that's it. I don't value it anything else beyond that. Literally 1%. When people say, "Hey man, I'm going to cut you off. I just want to say sorry," I'm a piece of shit. I said, "Man, I don't want to hear sorry." Like, I acknowledge that you want to apologize, but I'm not interested in that. That's not what I'm having this conversation about. You could feel sorry. Sorry is about yourself. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Being apologetic about something is not to make someone else be happy. It's to be happy with yourself.
It's a selfish act.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize that.
You taught me that, believe it or not, because you're the first person that ever told me I don't want to hear sorry. I want to understand that you understand what you did, and I want you to improve on that. It's not, and I came from a upbringing that it was always like, you do somebody wrong, you have to tell that person sorry, and this is the way that dynamic goes. And maybe that isn't the healthiest way to go about that situation.
Well,
I think there's a middle ground between our positions.
Sorry is a cop out, right? Sorry is an easy out. Sorry is I punched Tony in the face, and then the next day I'm like, man, I'm sorry I punched you in the face. I shouldn't have done that. And then the next day I punch him in the face again. It's like, well, dude, I'm sorry that I did that. And it's like, well, I apologize. I said I'm sorry. So now we should be able to move on from it. It's
that's how I view apologies.
It's manipulative. It's almost manipulative. It's forcing that other person to extend something to you.
Believe it or not, I carried that behavior in my relationships, and I didn't realize that I was doing wrong. And I felt like, oh, I'm telling these people sorry, but it doesn't make the situation right. Like, and I've learned that the most in relationships, and even in forgiveness in relationships. Like, I used to carry a lot of weight and a lot of blame on my partner, and as time moves on, and I guess time is really the factor, is that you start to realize your own issues, and like, yo, I could have basically handled this situation much better than I did previously.
Yeah. So it's not, time isn't, I would agree that for the most part, I agree for the most part with your statement. I would say, to bring this back full circle, right? The question is, a reformed Nazi, are they able to re-enter society? My view is yes. I would think that a person that chooses to not be a piece of shit anymore and they want to be a good person, I think that's good. And we should welcome those people in our circles to both harbor a sector of a location where all you other pieces of shit who want to stop being pieces of shit, look at this guy. He stopped being a piece of shit a while ago. Like, let's bring those people in. And also, the more people we have on our side, the better. Even if there's a guy who's not fully on board with all the things we believe, if he's going to vote along the sides that we agree with, that's a positive direction for a movement, is my point of view. What's up, Dory?
Another piece of very factual evidence of that happening is a lot of German Nazi scientists came over to America to help with either the Manhattan Project or NASA and all these other projects. And in my opinion, these are redemptional values that allow these people to re-enter society.
So I think the argument you're making is the lefty argument, is that it's not enough to, well, I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but that's what it sounds like to me, which is that it's not enough to just cast away those opinions. You also have to better the other side. And I don't agree with that personally.
I think for certain viewpoints, reform is important. Like, not just reform of yourself, but reform of others. If you're a Nazi, I don't. Okay, here's the thing. If
well,
you're
what's a Nazi? I guess let's get, because that's a whole other thing. Are you just a person that was a citizen of a location and then you just happen to be aligned with the party? Or are you people dragging people into a gas chambers? Because those are very different fucking people. Right?
The situation that I saw on Twitter that spawned this whole conversation is that this was a person that I'm assuming they were part of a skinhead movement, because they said this is where it gets a little like gray for me, is because they said they were indoctrinated by their older brother when they were 12, which is a young, impressionable age.
Right.
And then they were part of this Nazi skinhead white supremacist movement until they were 18 or 19 or so, and now they're like 20 or 21. So they're a year or two out of this world philosophy, and they're still young. They're still super young. That you're still forming a lot of opinions about the world. I was honestly a piece of shit up until my like mid to late 20s. Like, I had a lot of fucked up, outdated points of view.
A piece of shit yesterday.
I didn't have any points of view that said that like a minority was worse than me or anything, as far as like they were valued less than me, but I think that's a super young age to be indoctrinated into that. I think it's a very impressionable age. So I don't know that it's necessarily something you should hold against someone, the same way you shouldn't try to victim blame a 12-year-old that was groomed by a 30-year-old man into doing sexual things with them. It's a young, impressionable age, and it was by an older person that they saw as an authority figure that had groomed them into this particular society. It's grooming in both aspects, whether it's grooming them to do sexual things or whether it's grooming them to have these fucked up world views of minorities and racial relations. But I think that it is respectable if they have renounced those views and they've come over to a side that is more in line with progressive values in regards to those things. I don't think that they're necessarily deserving applause, which I think is where kind of the split on Twitter came from. Is these people were upset that they had not received like opened, welcoming arms into this leftist Twitter community. Which, first off, like we covered earlier, leftist Twitter loves eating itself. That's its favorite thing in the world. It loves purity tests. It loves, I don't know what the pure Twitter form of like leftist philosophies are, but I think most of us are probably lacking in some way on that.
Oh, I'm canceled.
But
find out who I am, I'm canceled.
But so I think that it's a fucked up thing to expect welcoming open arms into that. I don't think you should be applauded necessarily for being an ex-Nazi. But I don't think that we should be like pushing those people out of the side just because they had those previous opinions, if they've truly gathered. And what are you two giggling about up there?
That's all I want to know. I think it's about me wiggling my microphone, so I keep doing it.
Tony thought it was him.
I thought it was my shit. I was like this. I was like, what the fuck? Why is this squeaking? This ain't no fucking
squeak, right? Yeah, that came from me.
I was mad. I was like, yo, this piece of shit's not supposed to be squeaking. The fuck? All right, my bad.
Is this fucking shock mount?
So forgiveness. We agree that there is a form of forgiveness when.
Well, I'm still curious. Before we wrap, I am curious about you and David in particular. Like what
That's
your
why I
answer
try to
is.
re-ask. That's why I try to restate the question. Is a guy who was a Nazi. The question is it enough for them to stop being a Nazi, or do they need to stop being a Nazi and then like fucking do all types of like anti-Nazi work in order to say that okay, they could re-enter society?
Nope, I don't think so.
I think it's a Red Dead Redemption 2 type of
Damn.
story. I think you have to redeem yourself. I think if you are a bad person, you have to then be a good person in order to redeem yourself. And maybe like I said, maybe I'm thinking too highly of people. Maybe I'm thinking they have to climb mountains and be notarized for it or some shit like that. But at least push a progressive that is not what is the former that they used to do, and they have to realize that it was terrible. I'm going to be honest, all the way down to the level of people who voted for the Nazi party. I think they also have learning to do as well, and they have to recognize that what they did was an atrocity. It brought back the world instead of moved it forward.
Yeah.
Which I think the German population does a very good job at. I think their reform and the amount that they have paid back in reparations and stuff like that has been actually better than what America has done for their slave population.
Absolutely.
The great presidential candidate Marianne Williamson agrees with you. Okay, I don't know if you guys remember Marianne Williamson.
She was the crystal lady. Didn't she believe in crystals?
The fucking crazy crystal lady, but she had some decent opinions. In some interviews, I thought she was out of her goddamn mind, and then in other interviews, I was like, damn.
You know what's stupid? I'm sorry. I'm going to be un-American here for a moment. This whole like slippery slope freedom of speech thing we have, where we're like, well, you can't say that the Confederate flag can be outlawed because that's a slippery slope.
It's a flag of traitors. Outlaw that shit.
People hate that slippery slope. Like that's the argument for everything. Is it's a slippery slope. Germany did that shit. Germany said you can't display a swastika, you can't display Nazi imagery, and they seem just fine.
Yep. I don't know. Like I said, there's a piece of shit guy named Dave Rubin. He's a grifter piece of shit. But he has an interview with Marianne Williamson, who's a presidential candidate I would have told you prior to this interview was a complete joke. And she went on and she trounced the shit out of this guy. And she talked about how he tried to bring up reparations as some form of dunk. And she's like, yo, look at Nazi Germany. Like they've grappled with the gravity of the wrongdoing that they've committed, and they've done reparations. They've done many, many actions that are both correct and things that will be very controversial in this country, such as banning free speech. All that being said is that she's fully on board with some type of reparations for African American people, or more specifically, the descendants of slaves. However, I don't know how people identify. But just to go back full circle, right? We're talking a person who's a bad person. Is it enough that they stop being bad in order for you to accept them? Or do they need to start doing good to be accepted? And just to load the question, Stannis Baratheon from the hit show Game of Thrones, but really from the books of A Song of Ice and Fire, he would say a good act does not wash out the bad act.
I agree.
Man is absolute. Okay, I don't agree with this guy, but I find some of his. Let's just say I'm a stand for Stannis. Okay, I'm a Stannis stan. Okay, a little bit. The manus, as some would say, Stannis the man.
Is it Aristotle that he said a good person is defined by doing good acts? If you do good acts, you're a good person, and that's the way it works. You do good acts, you're a good person. That's the philosophy. Boom.
You wanted to know a little bit about the dynamic between me and Tony, but I wanted to go in on that before we close out.
Well, Tony also needs to answer. So I'm curious to hear what Tony's take is.
All right, just to be clear, I think me and Mateo, not to talk for anybody, but we're in the view that, hey, if you cast aside your old beliefs and you decide to espouse those beliefs and move on with your life, I personally think that's enough to be accepted, right? Not necessarily like I'm gonna throw a fucking party for you and say that you're a good man and XYZ thing, but it's enough for you to like, maybe I won't punch you in the face when I see you, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna treat you with decency.
It's not 100% forgiveness, but it's the first step towards forgiveness.
Right.
I think redemption is a process. I think redemption is a road.
Roll, right. And then Doey says you have to walk that road all the way to
some point.
Some point
before you even get forgiveness.
Additional good acts before I could accept you. And and then Tony, where do you lie within that spectrum, I guess?
I do not think that
or do you think there's unforgivable acts? Is that unforgivable? You remember that?
He said as such, but I'm curious.
There definitely are.
I think Nazism is forgivable though. This is crazy.
I think if you do something so fucking like killing massive a whole race of people, right? And deeply in your heart believe that this is a right thing, I don't think you can come back from it. But some instances of them, if they truly look at it and they come back and their mind and spirit and everything is 100% changed, then sure, yeah, they can be forgiven in a society view. But personally, no, I don't think I can forgive you. But who am I? I'm not the creator. I'm not the judge, the jury. You know, that's not me. But yeah, you can change. I feel like people have chances. People can give chances to change and become better. Yes, but there is
you're 50% forgiveness, 50% no forgiveness.
It's the act that's hard to. It's hard to let go. Like
maybe like Adolf Hitler.
I don't think he can change.
But maybe someone who voted for Adolf, like, maybe we could forgive that guy.
I don't think he can change.
I'm sorry, I'm just asking Tony real quick.
I don't think Adolf Hitler can change.
Sure. But I'm saying like someone who voted for him.
Someone who voted for him, and they could change.
Very loaded question. This is why I'm asking.
They could change because maybe their view at the time, they didn't know no better. Maybe they were ignorant to what was going on, or they just going with the crowd, the motion of the ocean. They're just going with it.
Right. So a lot less controversial. Do you think Donald Trump? Right. Now, I'm not equating him to Adolf Hitler. I just want to make the question a lot more easier because I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as Adolf. But
he can't speak as well.
I have a good comparison, in my opinion.
So Donald Trump, you think could Donald Trump be forgiven?
Yeah,
I think you would have to have the capacity to ask for forgiveness first.
Damn, Donald don't got that. He don't even think he's ever done anything wrong.
Right?
What are you saying, Dewey?
In my opinion, like Fidel Castro, like I could not forgive this guy.
See, I think that's where it falls apart, though, because I think to get forgiveness, you have to have the capacity to ask for forgiveness. So I think these examples we're giving of these extremes of Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump and Fidel Castro, which, to be clear, I don't think Donald Trump necessarily is quite in the leagues of some of these others. As big a piece of shit as I do think the man is, I think you have to have the ability to ask for forgiveness before we can even have the conversation about forgiveness and redemption and all that. You have to have the ability to recognize you did wrong and to ask for forgiveness for that. I think that's
the first step.
That's the first step in anything approaching an apology or anything like that.
If you can't do that, then there's no hope for you.
So I think that these extreme examples don't count because these are people that would not, in my mind, have the capacity to ask for that. I'm more curious about just in our day-to-day life. Like you and Doey have obviously had arguments and disagreements, and what do you think is the secret to getting past that? How do you think that you guys approach that? How do you forgive each other?
You want my honest opinion?
I'll let you go first.
Thank you. Doughboy just needs to stop being sensitive.
Assault is real.
Doughboy needs to stop being sensitive to everything and stop applying things and stop letting everything apply to him.
Wow.
I
so
think
you're just like victim blaming. You didn't do anything.
no, it's not
wrong.
even
It's just
victim blaming.
Doughboy
I'm
taking
saying
blame.
like Doughboy takes offense to a lot of things that's not even meant for him. Like we could say like it could probably be about an issue that he has, but we could say it about something else, and he'll take offense to it. He'll make it think like, "Oh, y'all talking about me," and it's like we're not.
I think Doey has a tendency to be like that because what you and David probably share in common is you both have a tendency to be passive aggressive. So I think you two are both constantly looking for like subtext in each other's statements whenever you both say things.
Y'all think I'm passive aggressive?
Yes, 100%. You're also full on aggressive, but you're also passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I can be an extremely sensitive person sometimes. I feel like the way our friendship in the long run has come out has been like we've learned how to handle each other in a certain aspect, and to continue thinking that 10 years later, 20 years later is the same appropriate way to handle that situation is probably we gotta like grow out of that and like
we're not 12 anymore.
yeah
I do think, just as an outsider, and I'm also like, I'm not completely new to the dynamic between the three of y'all, but I'm fairly new. I've got 10 years as opposed to y'all having 20 years, right? Like I got half the time in game that y'all have. But I do think that y'all have grown as far as how you talk to each other. I think you guys are probably more openly communicative than my most of my buddies here in Austin, and I think that is an awesome thing. I think it's cool. I honestly I hate the arguments, but I really do love the conflict resolution afterwards, where there's like emotion checks and there's like, hey, I was just feeling this kind of way, and I'm sorry I took it out on you because I was feeling this. I appreciate that. I think that is some of the coolest shit in the world. I have bragged about that to so many people about just how good this particular group of friends of mine is at communicating feelings, because that's a tough thing. Communicating feelings is fucking hard as hell.
My thing is like the reason why even though I am wrong at sometimes how I approach people, right? Because I'm, like I said,
someone clip that. Someone clip that, please.
Aggressive, right? Is that I can speak to Doughboy and Pucho and Everett and a couple other real close friends and families that I could speak to them a certain way because I know that they know I don't mean harm, right? Versus I go and tell, like, I can go to Pucho and be like, yo, your breath fucking stinks, nigga. Handle that. Versus me going to Mateo, I'm not going to tell Mateo that.
That'd be tight.
I'm not going to tell Mateo that. I'm going to be like, I'll probably offer you gum or something minty. Like, I'm not going to tell you straight up, yo, your breath fucking stinks. Like, I'm not going to tell you that, right? But I could tell Pucho and Doughboy that, even though Doughboy will be offended. Doughboy will be offended.
Very offended.
If I tell Pucho, yo, your breath fucking stinks, and I go to Doughboy and be like, yo, your breath fucking stinks, he'll feel way more offended than Pucho will. And it's just because of how the sensitivity level is. Like, if I were to make a claim on Doughboy, it'll be whatever. Pucho adds or accepts and makes it a fact, it's a wrap. What I said just destroyed Doughboy, and he is upset now. So it's like there's levels to sensitivity, and then maybe I should be aware that Doughboy's sensitivity level is higher than mine's or Pucho's or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, Doughboy, you know me for how long now?
Oh my God. Is he making the same argument that you're making with this therapist, David? That you should just know who he is and accept all the wrong he does because you've accepted this as his friend? Yes or no? That's all I'm looking for. Okay. All right. So now to add my 2 cents. I honestly feel like I'm one of the more toxic people around here. Like, I think like because I'm the smartest person ever of all time, I always feel like I'm right? But as exhibited in the earlier conversation, I don't think I always act on that righteousness. Like, I know it's the right thing to do. I don't behave in that manner. And when you call me out, I'll tell you, yeah, like I was wrong for doing that thing, but I still felt like doing it because of XYZ reasons, right? All that being said, the thing that I do is when someone behaves a way, I'll accept it. And then given some undetermined amount of time, it could be minutes, hours, days, weeks. When they exhibit that same behavior, I'll call it out in the same manner that they behaved in the past. And they get so mad. I'll just show them like, look, this is a thing that you accepted and explained to me before. And I'm just showing you that you're doing the same thing. And Tony gets so mad because he's like, oh no, we're done with that. We stopped fighting about that. But to me, it never died because I thought it was wrong and I held it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and that's what I mean by toxicity.
As previously stated, though, Tony's passive aggressive, and passive aggressive people have a problem actually ever ending arguments in a satisfactory way. Yep. It's an aspect of that. So while the argument may have ended for Tony,
it never ended for me.
It never ended for you because like I know we've done this in arguments before where it's like, well, we're just gonna have to disagree, to agree to disagree, and I hate that. There should be a period. There should be an end to an argument. Someone's right and someone's wrong, or both people are being assholes. There's some kind of resolution. There's some kind of like, I don't know. Like I've stated, there has to be a statement to get forgiveness. There has to be a statement to get redemption.
I think when you agree to disagree, it's indicative that somewhere along the lines, one or more people have refused to answer a question. So you can't get down to the fundamentals of what we disagree on. Like you answer everything in such a way where we're trying to keep things as wishy-washy as possible.
Agree to disagree is an agreement that we're going to argue about this later on.
Yep, 100%.
When you're level-headed and not hot. That's all that is.
Not even that. It's just this is in the pocket. This is an argument that's gonna happen
again. The next time you say such a remark, I will whip this out.
Not me.
And that's who I am. I have all the arguments in retainer. As soon as you mix it, I'm like, blah, I just whip it right out, and then people get upset about it. But
you forgot about my trap card.
Yep.
He has an argument.
A
holster for arguments.
Well,
I just keep them right there in the holster, man. And it ain't healthy. It ain't healthy. The healthiest thing is for everybody to work through their problems and all that shit.
I think
circle multiple times, because we are a flat circle, as Matthew McConaughey says, right? The healthiest thing is to just us find some situation where agree to disagree isn't wrong, right? Ultimately, if we get to some point where we can't convince each other, that is an agreement to disagree. I find that in general, when people use the phrase, they just say, let's just agree to not indulge each other's arguments any further.
Agree to disagree, and it is what it is, are two of my least favorite statements in the English language. Because you know what? They're so ineffectual. They're so like weak.
They're very
my least favorite, and when I say least favorite, I mean the thing I hate the most is when people say, "What do you want me to do?" Oh my God, does that trigger the ever living fuck out of me?
You know what's funny? This is the bad.
Me. I say that a lot.
See how he automatically attaches it to himself?
Joey, I love you a lot, but you might be the most passive aggressive person I've ever met in my life. So it does not surprise me that you say that statement a lot.
So this is the problem.
What do you want me to do basically means I'm me and you gotta accept me.
It's both of those statements rolled into one.
What else do you expect from me?
It's both. We have to agree to disagree, and it is what it is rolled into one.
Yes,
is what that statement is.
I fucking hate it. I'm like, how about let's not disrespect each other? How about let's communicate about what we disagree on? How about let's try to find some space where we could both be happy? Those are many other things that we could do. What else do you expect me to do? All of these other things.
So that's the
But
problem.
when you say that, you're basically saying, I give up on all other alternatives. What do you expect me to do? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to be? I'll be that way just to make you happy.
So that's
and it ain't real.
That's Pucho's.
It's fake.
That's a Pucho's thing, right? Like he's got a retainer for everything. He's got a rhyme.
I got a rhyme to go
to
destroy your career. Yep, I'm KRS-One. I'll take it. Smack. Baby.
My shit is that I have a line.
Damn, my line, not even a rhyme.
I have.
You don't even got a rhyme.
The one up is back,
Damn, the
baby.
one fucking up.
I have a line.
No, we agreed last episode what one up podcast
was. Unless you want to know what toxic
We're
was,
changing
man.
it, baby. We're changing it. So I literally have a line. I not even a line. A word, maybe 2 words, a sentence that I can drop at you. When when Pucho is tight and he feels like now he's gonna get you upset, I can do that in 1 or 2 words for everybody.
Damn.
For everybody. I'll know when to trigger you and how to trigger you because you don't piss me off and now I don't give a fuck what my outcome or the reaction will be for me saying something to piss you off. I won't care no more. I have that. I can do that almost instantly for everybody here. Now that you told me that you hate that shit, the day you piss me off, I am going to use that. And that's me. That's the ignorance in me. Because now I'm storing that. Like Jesus's, suck my dick. If I'm ever mad at Jesus, and I love Jesus. No, that's Jesus's thing. Jesus don't like to be
shout
told
out.
that.
It's Easter, baby. We don't want no Jesus around here.
Like,
He's shutting that shit down. Fuck Catholicism and Christianity. We don't want to hear it.
Not Jesus
go
Christ.
home. We're only
Zeus our boy.
Damn,
Zeus our
poor-
boy, right?
Damn,
Like he hates that shit.
dog, Jesus.
So it's like
how you doing that to him?
when niggas get mad, that's a thing
God.
that I would attack, right? Because I'm pissed off. So
Tony,
now,
this is a spicy take.
and spicy, and now I'm going to use that to piss you off, and that's bad. That's not good, right?
Tony, let's be for real,
What?
bro. You do this shit on not even an upset basis. This
No,
is
I'm
the way
upset. Just because I
that
don't look
you
upset, I'm
maneuver.
upset. No, just because I'm upset or I don't look upset, I'm upset. I just don't look it, but I'm upset if I'm using shit like that because I shouldn't be out here trying to really get you tight. That's not a friend. We shouldn't be doing that. All of us, right?
So when we're playing video games, Tony is my favorite person to troll. And I love to troll him in the stupidest ways. I love to troll him by just like misunderstanding one word in like a sentence that he said and just changing one word to something else. And just asking him like, what do you mean, Tony? Why would you care about what we're doing with burp? Like just change that. What I like to troll Tony in the stupidest ways possible.
So just to end this conversation with the person that we just brought up, Jesus, a great friend of the podcast that we will bring on one day to discuss all things New York Knickerbockers. Because he is arguably the greatest New York Knickerbocker fan.
100%.
That
you would say he is?
He is a basketball encyclopedia.
He's arguably one of the biggest. I didn't say the biggest. I said arguably.
He's gonna feel offended by that.
Okay, you already want to fight. I'll fight you on it. I
don't want to fight anything.
Perfect, because I win. Okay, so just to bring this back full circle, one day Jesus was using a very funny word. Right? Think of you ever heard of the planet Uranus? Mm-hmm. Right? We all grew up. There's a planet called Uranus, and people started calling it Uranus. So to kind of like remove some of the comedy from such a word. Mm-hmm. So one day, Jesus decided to troll Tony just a little bit. And instead of saying anus, he just started saying, hey, man, how do you feel about blah, blah, blah with your a noose? He was saying a noose. And Tony was like, a noose? What the fuck is a noose? And he's like, dude, everybody knows. I don't know. I don't got another fucking goddamn noose. A noose, man. Everybody knows what a noose. You always come out with this bullshit. You're pissing me. And Tony just logged off. He got so mad he just left. He didn't realize that the word a noose was just anus. And he used it in a multitude of sentences that should have indicated that he was talking about an anus. Tony got so mad
They
that
got
he went
me
home.
tight.
So just to illustrate the happiness that someone like Mateo might experience from trolling someone like Tony, just know that just changing a word like anus to a noose is enough to trigger the ever living fuck out of
No,
Tony.
because if I'm asking you what is that, and you're like, "Oh, it's in a noose." You don't know what a noose is.
Yeah, that
I'm
shit
like,
pissed
"Yo,
me off.
okay, I don't know, but just tell me." Oh, you don't have a noose. You don't
You don't know
know
what the fucking a noose is?
Oh my
A
god,
noose. Everyone has an a noose.
But I don't even know
what
why.
What the fuck is an a noose?
I
I don't know what an a noose is.
I don't even know
He
why I'm
got-
giving that shit fucking
Yeah.
any energy either. It's just
He
just
says-
caught me off that day.
He's every time I come in here, you niggas are telling me different things. He's like, what the fuck is in the news?
You're using new words I ain't never fucking heard of.
That nigga will make up. Yo, if you catch me on the right day, you can troll me so easily. You can catch me on a crazy day, and you will catch me real good. And I would just be like, I give up. The only way I can live off this is if I just leave. I'll be back, but I'm gonna leave right now. That's how it be.
Okay.
But on that note, this was one hell of a fucking episode. We are 5 hours deep in this fucking a noose.
Gonna have to chop this motherfucker in two. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you for everybody watching the One Up podcast. And obviously now you get the definition of why we say one up in many different forms. But I want to appreciate you if you've listened to this whole entire episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you for continuously watching and commenting and liking our videos. We greatly appreciate.
Yo, one more thing, guys.
greatly appreciate
Overwatch
it.
League is coming out this month.
Oh my god.
What
about
one
the Overwatch archives?
one more thing.
Yeah.
Here's to our editor Pucho. Here's to him in the future when he's chopping up this video and trying to make it make any kind of sense.
All right.
Because this is gonna be a tough one.
All right. Here's to all the teachers who told me I would never amount to nothing.
Don't even.
You did some Juicy right there. Dude, Juicy is such a good song.
This is all the teachers told me I never amount to nothing, right?
Right now, I don't got nothing to take a shot.
Salute.
With. I ran out.
Deuces
So, Tony?
from the One Up podcast.
Later.
Howdy.